Let's. Do I have the right thing up? Yep. Here we go. Read this article. Great. What the fuck? Oh, there it is. All right. All right. Let's take a look. Okay. So, Netflix announces 4 new specials hosted and produced by Dave Chapelle. The streaming giant has faced intense criticism over the Firebrand stand-up's latest special. Okay. And a picture of him. Looks good in that suit. You gotta admit, he looks really good in that suit. It's a nice, fancy suit he's got on. All right, anyways, right. Netflix and Dave Chapelle are sticking together. Chapelle will produce and host a series of 4 specials featuring stand-up comics he has handpicked. Netflix announced in a news release Friday. The announcement comes more than 4 months after Netflix was roiled by internal divisions and public outcry over Chapelle's latest special, The Closer. I know there were protests, right? Dave Chappelle's Netflix commitment to artists against forward-thinking identity. Viewer analysis: the streaming giant believes the Firebrand comedians created and the Firebrand comedians creative freedom, and also linked to high-profile liberals and progressive causes. I if I remember correctly, like Netflix is big enough to have like a significant trans workforce, and they had like they had a strike or something, like a small strike. I remember they were protesting from the audience, not the headquarters of Netflix. That was the thing that happened. Yeah, so that's like a thing. Anyway, this is just a random article. I haven't. We'll go back to this one. Then so the first comedian featured on Chappelle's home team will be Earthquake, also known as Nathaniel Martin Sherman. The streaming giant said Earthquake legendary debuts February 28th, which is, I guess, 2 weeks from now. The second special will showcase Donnell Rawlings, a comedian who appeared on Comedy Central's sketch series, A Chappelle Show, and HBO's The Wire. I remember Donnell. Donnell was really funny. He was a really funny guy. Super funny. It's something I will look forward to, actually. And this is Earthquake. I don't know this Earthquake guy. This is the picture of him. I don't know who this guy is though. Never heard of him. The company did not announce a release date for Rawlings' entry into the series. I've been doing this a long time, and comedians like Quake and Donnell are not only friends but have inspired my own career, Chappelle said in a statement. Anyone in the comedy community knows these names and knows their time to shine is long overdue. I am proud to be part of this moment, he added. In the fall of 2021, The Closer was blasted for content that many side critics called transphobic and anti-LGBTQ. Netflix employees stage a walkout. That's, the walkout I was talking about. Yeah. Ed Sarandos, Netflix's co-CEO, said in a staff memo in October that the firm supports creative freedom, even though this means there will always be content on Netflix some people believe is harmful. Netflix said Friday that Chappelle will appear in each installment of Chappelle's home team to introduce the headliner. Earthquake is fucking hilarious? Yeah, I never heard of this person. But I'll take your word for it. Yeah, this is the protest I was thinking of. Hundreds rally outside Netflix to protest Chappelle's special. The streaming giant has drawn fierce criticism. The Closer, okay. Yeah, oh, there's a lot more people than I thought. Team trans. I imagine some of them are just like supporters who came out to say they're on their side. Dozens of the Netflix employees protesting Dave Chappelle's latest stand-up special were met with roaring applause as they lined up outside the streaming giant's headquarters Wednesday in a work stoppage. And this is October 20th, 2021. Transgender employees and allies staged the stoppage, which began around 10:30 a.m. Local time, while employees working from their homes are united in a virtual walkout. Netflix faces escalating criticism over Chappelle's special, The Closer, which debuted October 5th. LGBTQ advocacy groups and some employees have decried Chappelle's special, as transphobic and harmful to transgender communities, creating an unprecedented public relations crisis for the country's marquee streaming video service. The spokesperson for Chapelle did not respond to multiple emails requesting comment about the backlash and walkout. While comedy is something people need, we need to be careful what we put out into the world. A Netflix employee who asked to remain anonymous for fear of retribution to NBC News at the rally. Trans lives are not a joke. Goddamn right they're not. Hundreds of people, including a handful of Netflix employees, who declined to comment on the record for fear of being fired, attended the Solidarity rally, which was organized by Ashley Marie Preston, a black transgender activist. This isn't just about Netflix, Preston said, told the crowd. It's about corporate culture that manipulates the algorithmic sciences to distort the way that we perceive ourselves. That manipulates the algorithmic sciences to distort the way we perceive ourselves. The algorithm distorts how we perceive ourselves. I think it just, I guess that algorithm can distort how we perceive the world. Like you could be YouTube's algorithm, right? Like creating like the far right pipeline and all that. So I guess so. But perceive ourselves, I've never heard it say that way. It changes how we look at ourselves. Maybe? I don't know. I'm here to let Ted know, Ted, the head of Netflix, Ted know that if he won't step up for their rights, we will, Preston said later, referring to Netflix co-CEO Ted Sarandos. David Huggard Jr., who appeared on RuPaul's Drag Race as Eureka O'Hara, called on Dave Chapelle to show more empathy. Before anything else, understanding that your jokes are promoting hateful and discriminatory behavior in conversation, and that's what hurts us, Huggard told the crowd in comments directed toward Chapelle. Understand that what you said wasn't okay and it's affecting people in a negative way. The protesters toted signs bearing pro-LGBTQ slogans such as Team Trans, invest in trans creators, and spread love not hate, and chanted Trans Lives Matter. Many, like Senacone, Kyodara, said they came to show their support for the trans community. I'm here because I'm pissed, I'm devastated, I'm angry, said Kyodara, who identifies as gay. I believe Ted Sarandos should be fired or resign. Our lives are worth more than money. That's never the case in capitalism, is it, right? It's like, you would think so, but that's never the case in capitalism. They'll fucking poison you. Remember that. They will fucking poison you for a few more cents extra. Exactly how they operate in capitalism, right? So when you're talking about just like you or a famous or a famous comedian, famous content creator, I'm gonna choose them. We're gonna choose them. They're gonna choose them until it's completely fucking untenable. We're gonna choose them. Sean Kalaji, a political activist who described himself as a cis gay white man, echoed a similar message of solidarity. There is a movement to create a rift in the queer community where there isn't one, he said. It matters to have solidarity with our trans friends. I don't know. I think there actually is a rift in the LGBTQ community. I think a lot of the LGB part don't really care about the T part or maybe the Q part either. I think that rift is already there. Anyway, Trey. Black trans lives matter. That's very important because our trans brothers and sisters are being killed. Yeah, they're being murdered. It's pretty good artwork here. Anyway, Alex Paris, who works in communications for Stonewall Democratic Club, an LGBTQ feminist and progressive political advocacy organization, said Wednesday was a really important day. Netflix needs to do a better job of listening. We've seen the attacks on marginalized communities, most notably the AAPI community, African American Pacific, or Asian American Pacific Islander. I always forget about that. That means. Paris says, when we don't stand up for the marginalized communities, violence goes unchecked. Some celebrities, including comedians like Bill Eichner, Schitt's Creek star Dan Levy, The Matrix co-director Lily Wachowski, and other unauthorized actor Elliot Page, for solidarity on social media. I stand with the trans, non-binary, and BIPOC employees at Netflix fighting for more and better trans stories and a more inclusive workplace, Page said, who stars in the Netflix series Umbrella Academy, wrote on Twitter. And Page's trans. Okay, yeah, this is after the transition there. Before the walkout, Netflix Trans Employee Resources group released a list of demands. We want the company to adopt measures in the areas of content, investment, employee relations, and safety and harm reduction, all of which are necessary to avoid future instances of platform transphobia and hate speech, employees said in this document, which was first reported by The Verge. Okay, I'll just read the rest of this really quickly. The company said Wednesday morning that it recognized that Chapelle's special distressment of its employees. We value our trans colleagues and allies and understand the deep hurt that's been caused. I don't think you do. A Netflix spokesperson said, we respect the decision of any employee to choose to walk out and recognize we have much more work to do both within Netflix and in our content. Much more work. But they're not going to do any of that work. Netflix said Friday that it had fired an unnamed employee for sharing confidential, commercially sensitive information related to the special. With a news organization, the company previously suspended Tara Field, a trans employee who criticized the special on Twitter. The spokesperson denied that she was suspended because of her post. They always do. Field, who wrote that Chapelle special attacks the trans community and the very validity of transness, tweeted on October 12th that she had been reinstated. I feel vindicated, she said. Reinstated all of a sudden. But it had nothing to do with anything. GLAAD, the LGBTQ advocacy organization, and media watchdog group said anti-LGBTQ content violates Netflix's policy to reject programs that incite hate or violence. But Netflix more important policy is to make fucking money, and that's what Dave Chappelle does. He makes fucking money. So, in an internal memo obtained by The Verge, Sarandos said the special did not cross the line on hate. He said the closer would remain available to services more than 200 million global subscribers. Sarandos acknowledged missteps Tuesday evening, telling Variety that he screwed up when it came to internal communication, meaning he shouldn't have written that shit down. That all means that I shouldn't have wrote it down so that you can find it, so I can get in trouble. I should have led with a lot more humanity, Sarandos told the trade publication, meaning I had a group of employees who were definitely feeling pain and hurt from the decision we made. I think that needs to be acknowledged up front before you get into the nuts and bolts of anything, he added. I didn't do that. Sarandos said he remains committed to a creative freedom, a priority that might be difficult to square with the company's links to progressive causes and high-profile liberals. Chapelle has a lucrative content deal with Netflix. He signed, and this is the important part, an agreement in 2016 that is reported to pay him $20 million per stand. $20 million. He did 3 of those stand-up specials. $20 million each. Wow. Addressing the crowd, Preston said Dave Chappelle doesn't get to suck the life out of this moment. We won't stop until justice is won. Yeah. And there it is. And those kind of contracts have clauses like, okay, if you terminate me for something that is uncalled for, right? Then you're still paying, right? So like Netflix wants the specials out of him because they paid for it. They paid $20 million. On a completely unrelated note, consider subbing to the channel. $5. Not $20 million to get more of this content. Just $5. Really? It's a steal. It's a steal. Yeah. Anyway, Trey. So yeah, that was that. So I want to discuss this. Discuss this one about the new specials, right? Should people be watching these things, right? Are we over this? Do you think everyone's over this? Do you think it was ever a big deal to begin with, right? With Dave Chappelle and his previous special, because people protested for a bit, but we'll go back to work. Like, how big of a deal was this, and should it still be? So that's what I want to talk about today. Oh, Kamikaze, thank you for resubbing at tier 3. Hey, tier 3 for 18 months. Thank you, Kamikaze. Would you do an offensive stand-up for 20 million? I mean, that's some money. As long as it's offensive just to you, the audience members, right? As long as it's just offensive to you all, to white cis men. That's my audience. So if it's offensive to you, the white cis men out there, yes, I would love to do that. I would absolutely love to make a constant special for you. GSU Gambit, yo, what up, buddy? How you doing? We love our friend GSU. GSU, back at it. I hope you're having a fantastic night. GSU, hope you're having a good one, a safe one with you and your family. But anyway, Kazi, thank you for the tier 3 for 18 months. Love to see it. Thanks for the kind support. You just call me a white cis man. I miss you, bro. I miss you too. GSU Gambit. Okay. Exclamation point open. Apparently, people have already lining up. That's good. I love to see it. Exclamation point open in chat. Let's want to try to make it on sometime soon. Next week. Okay, great. Yeah, please do that, GSU. Let's make that happen. Exclamation point open in chat lets you know that this is an open walk-on panel. Audience members like you, yes, you sitting at home may participate. Go into the server and go into the robot waiting room to be let in the description link for your convenience. We'd love to have you. Okay. And well, I guess I'll ask that later on. Okay. Let's get into this. Okay. Hello all. Thanks for being here.
How you doing?
Hey.
Hello.
Hey. You guys got cameras?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be turning mine on in a bit. By bit, I mean like a few minutes.
I might just need 1 sec for my virtual camera.
I'm sorry, no, Nasty Naz, you got like a lot of background or something. When you we hear a lot of static or something when you
Are you sure that's not Ryan?
No, I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. Maybe we'll find out.
Yeah, Prime is my
I
mic.
can mute myself. Ready? I'm gonna mute myself.
Okay. Actually, you deafened yours, Ryan. It's a little bit better.
Okay. Anyway, we'll figure it out.
All right, was it me? I just muted myself.
It's when you start talking. Don't worry about it. We'll work it out.
Okay, gotcha.
That's why I couldn't tell. I had him muted. I'm sorry.
Okay. Thanks all for being here. Much appreciated. Yeah. So we're talking about Dave Chappelle, and his new specials. So what are your thoughts?
I mean, I'll go first if you want to. There you go.
Yeah, no. Did someone else want to go first while I'm getting my camera set? I just didn't want to leave us in silence.
I'll go first.
Okay,
Yeah,
go ahead.
Go ahead, Natty.
So, I think the term TERF is like, it's still offensive to women because it kind of like simplifies what it means to even be a woman. Yeah, I'm gonna go there.
Okay.
Yeah, that's honestly what I believe in. Like, and I want to know what it is that's like what I'm wrong about. Like,
so TERF is offensive to women. Why is that offensive to women? Explain it.
Well, you're basically like the whole concept is you're trying to give like the feminism movement is a thing, right?
Yeah,
sure, but movements do change over time.
Sure.
Okay.
But to say that like a trans woman who I'll validate as a person that deserves respect in our society.
Thank God.
The exact same thing as a real biological woman. I think that's too much of a stretch.
I don't think anybody tries to say that realistically.
You don't say trans women are women.
Yeah, but that's not really in reference to like what they're referring to. At least the trans activists that I've interacted with, nobody denies about like the struggles that they actually have to take as far as like the level of surgeries. So typically, like they get a lot of bone jaw adjustments to like shave millimeters off their bone forehead. Of course, there's the ultimate surgery, which not every trans person gets. It's not so much a matter of like trans women are women, so they're biologically women and they've always grown up as biologically women. It's more of an experience kind of thing. Like they've gone through a struggle and now through this transition, they should be treated as such. Does that make sense?
I get it. So like,
oh, I'm sorry.
That makes them real women. That makes them like.
No, you're focusing on this real thing, right?
Yeah.
It makes them a women in terms of gender, right? Gender performance. So like, yeah, it makes them women in terms of like gender and how we may treat them in our society as women.
Right.
But like real, I feel like you're putting a lot of weight on whatever real means to you, right? And it sounds like real means to you is biological. The trans women don't pretend that they have like, you know, the internal organs or reproductive organs of cis women, right? No one pretends that. Obviously, if they did, they wouldn't have to do all other things, right? That they have to do. They don't have to take hormones, all that stuff, right? So no one's pretending that. So yeah. Naz?
Okay. So like when I say that, like saying that trans women are women being offensive to women, that's not like you're saying that's like
not really anything to me. As far as like, I think that there are enough structures that would both kind of hit, well, every gender, of course, but I think there are typical structures that will highlight and need to be addressed, and the power in which they have an oppression towards women, and trans women happen to fall under that category, right? So if we're talking about feminism as a whole, I think most of the people is more about like gender equality or equity, as far as like if we can abolish a system without gender, the theory becomes like then you don't really have to worry about oppressive systems that are going to like pigeonhole people based into careers based on their gender. Does that kind of like make a little bit more sense?
you're talking about careers that men and
Well,
women
no, the careers would be an example. What we're talking about is how society interacts with people as a whole and how there are typically oppressive systems that are oppressive towards women and then also men. So the idea being like if we can adjust those systems to make them a little bit more gender neutral, we should run into less problems.
Okay. Can you give me a real world example of that?
Can I ask you a question? Could I ask a question really quick?
Sure.
Prime, you said you don't know why someone's focusing on real. You know why someone's focusing on real. It's the same reason we focus on real for anything. Oh, is that fake money or real money? Is that like, is that a real fruit or is that like a plastic fruit? You know what
you
real
worry if
means.
those are real titties
What
in your face or fake titties in your face?
Exactly,
like,
right?
No, not exactly.
Okay.
No. What is real to you then?
That's like a very shallow.
Because when you say real, what I hear is that's a proxy for another term, right? So, but I'm not going to put words in your mouth. So, Brento,
no, tell me.
What do you know?
I don't want to do like a little dance. I just want to talk.
Well, you kind of started out dancing.
Yeah, I'm asking you. I'm asking you. Like, so I would want to know your opinion.
Ahead.
What do you mean when you say real?
Real is that biological female.
There we go. All right.
Say
only biological.
Yeah.
No one is like.
Well,
but
I
we
just think
said
it's weird that you questioned the value of real. You're like, what's real? What's that all about? It's like, what do you mean? You know what real
I
means?
I literally went on to say, when you say real, not you, him, nasty, right?
Yeah.
When you say real, you mean biological, right? Which is exactly what you
Yeah.
meant, right? Because I knew that.
Yeah.
And we're saying that real isn't based. At least what I'm saying, I'm not speaking of anyone else. What I'm saying is that real isn't based in biology, right? Not when it comes to gender, because that's sex, right? That's sex. And you already know this. You already know this dynamic. That's sex. We're talking about gender expression, right? And so that's what makes a person real. Is their gender expression? Right? Are they really a woman? Are they really expressing themselves as a woman, like in however you define that within our society? Yeah, sure, right? But like this idea of real, they are I guess a real male-bodied individual, right? Originally, while they're transitioning, but that doesn't mean that they aren't a real woman, because that's a separate thing from sex, right? Which is all the mistake Nasty was making.
That's part of gender theory says that they're very separate. I've never thought that was true.
I know
that's
you're
never
not.
been true to me. It sounds completely fake.
That's great.
And
So
like,
spend your time learning about gender and then try and debunk their theories when you go into their field.
I've spent years on this site talking to people about gender and transgender people, everybody. And it comes down to definitions of definitions.
Right. Semantics.
It's just semantics.
Exactly.
Yeah, welcome to categories.
Yeah, if it's
welcome
just semantics,
to
why you guys are
reality,
getting
dude.
upset about it?
You're not
What
a
is
tree because you
reality?
think. Come on, you're not a tree because you think you're a tree. You're not a bird because you think you're a bird.
No, because once again,
Because that's a
not.
different species.
Okay.
You're talking about.
Yes.
All right.
But
Anyway,
male and female are different sexes.
yes,
It's
sex
biological.
Sex is a
Correctly.
biological. We've
Right.
already acknowledged that. We're
But
talking
I
about
think
gender.
Gender is not an endless spectrum applied to nothing defining itself. It doesn't matter unless it's connected to fucking reality, and it is connected to reality.
It is connected to reality, right? Connected to reality and their
that means
expressions.
it has definitions.
Yes, and we have a definition. You don't understand that definition clearly because
The
you keep
definition is
confusing
literally
it
that a
with
woman is a
sex.
woman, whoever calls himself a woman.
you're,
That's it. That's
Wait,
the
hold on.
definition.
Like,
Okay,
can I
let's-
ask him a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, I see your hand. You
Never
just put it
mind.
down. I see your hand.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
I don't.
So help me figure out something here, Brent. Do you know who Andy Dick is?
Yes, I know Andy Dick.
Do you know like how he's typically scrawny and everything like that?
Yeah.
Do you know?
If you know
who
Andy Dick, then you know that. Yes.
Yeah. Do you know who Ronda Rousey is?
Yes.
Okay. Would you say that those are who has more feminine traits?
More feminine traits. Ronda Rousey has more feminine traits than Andy
Right.
Dick. You
But
could
if I
call him an
was-
effeminate man, but she has more feminine traits than him.
Right. So if I was to put Ronda Rousey in male clothes and Andy Dick in female clothes, do you think you could tell the difference?
Yes.
Do you think
Of
you could?
course. Yeah.
Okay. But
totally.
do you see how the line is pretty blurred?
It's surface level. It's like you're just doing surface level stuff. What I think
Sure.
like male
Because
and
that's
female
how
are,
we
which I
that's
think is
how
the
we
expression
work
of
in
gender.
society, right?
No, I don't think so.
I don't
I
check
think
if you.
I think
don't
we have a
interact with
nature.
you. Yes.
Yeah, I think this kind of
nature-
sounds more like litmus tests than anything. So, like, let's
Right.
just say someone claims that they're a specific denomination of whatever religion they are, of Christianity, any denomination of Christianity, and someone says, "No, you're not that," and literally just says to them, and the person's like, "Yeah, I am. This is what I believe. I believe all this stuff. This is everything. This is everything that's everything about me." And someone's like, "No, that's not you. Because I say so, my friend says so, and we know this religion very well, so you're not part of that religion."
Mhm.
So can you see how that it can be applied to this situation here? Where someone
No, because it's not. You guys think it's about expression and belief. I think it's about biology. And I think we have expressions
You're
that
talking
are
about
in the
male and
well,
female,
let me
Or
just-
is it
let me finish
We
this.
are not.
I think we have expressions in the category of gender that derive from sex. And so then I don't think all things in the category of gender can be neutralized because I think they're
Okay.
related to sex.
Okay, so we're gonna go to Meat and then Ryan next.
Okay. So Brento Box and maybe I guess it seems like there's two people, mainly Brental Bucks right here, advocating on one side of this. So Brental Bucks, it seems to me we need to be real clear about this. It seems to me like you don't think there's any scientific or like real reason that's rooted in reality why gender is different from sex. Is that right?
I don't think there is any.
Because let me just state
any reason rooted in reality why gender is different from sex. I understand. I understand. No, I'm not saying that. I'm repeating your question so that I make sure I heard it.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. I'm saying that I don't think they are connected, and like how people behave or perform in society and how they feel and the roles they can fill, they should not be like, pigeonholed into. But I think human beings like express gender naturally, and that determines the shape of society. And it's based around our roles in reproduction, which is sex.
Okay.
That's not all it's based around. That's not all anybody's worth. Blah, 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 blah. Everybody's got something to say, but that's it. True. I think that's the truth. And if you don't think that's the truth, that seems crazy to me. Like we've structured our society around what creates life. That's weird.
Yes, and it's been fucking terrible for a certain sect of that society.
What creates life? Oh boy.
Sex creates life.
Sure, we're not getting disconnected here, because everything that Brento said doesn't necessarily. I feel like Brento thinks he's contradicting us, but he's not. Brento, because I want to be clear.
I'm not thinking I'm contradicting you. I'm just wondering if you disagree.
Sure. Okay. Well, no. Yeah. Then let me say I don't think I would, and I don't actually think that anyone really disagreed with any of that, and I just want to clear up that misunderstanding if that's what's happening. Because like
if that's true, that's great.
Because so if you're saying that transgender theory disagrees with those things necessarily, that is not my understanding. My understanding is that if I'm going to give the dumb Professor Meathead take on what transgender theory is, it's basically, loosely speaking, that there seems to be across all societies, not absolutely with every single human, because human experiences are a spectrum, but there seems to be this categorical thing that seems to consistently happen across societies where we express ourselves in a way that we relate things to gender. Right? It does, as you say, or sex, sorry. We express, gender as an expression of sex. It isn't innately tied to sex, like you said, but it is somewhat tied to sex. There seems to be a correlation, even if it's not 100% one-to-one for everybody.
I think that's pretty fair.
Right.
I think with the conversations I've had and how it always arrives, when I ask people to define gender, they're like, it's everything and nothing, and it can even be not itself. You can be non-gender. That's a type of gender. And I'm like, fuck. So we're in trouble. That's crazy.
I would say, if we want to open up the can of worms of all the different ways that people misrepresent transgender theory on the platform, we will be here forever.
But I don't talk. I rarely talk to people who agree with me. I almost only talk to people who disagree with me, and I'm only ever trying to learn what they think. So I don't feel like I'm ever engaging with people who are like bad faith or trying to misrepresent it, which means that no one agrees with each other. You guys aren't trying to misrepresent it, are you? No one's doing that.
No. I think I'm just clarifying a misunderstanding that Brento had about transgender theory, because it sounds like he's had a lot of bad advocates that have tried to explain these things to him.
No, that's not the case.
That's not the case.
All right, well, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
That's fine.
But Brento, maybe we could have a more extensive conversation in the future. I'm just trying to say, if we're going to talk about how Dave Chapelle relates to this, we need to be very clear that if we're going to be clear about the truth that's based in reality, which is what we all care about gender, we're on the same page. Like gender is partially a social construct, but it's related to sex, and we observe these things across humans. And when something seems to be consistent across human societies, it's a real phenomenon. And there's also like trans. What is it called? There's the brain thing. I'm having a total brain fart. The dysphoria.
Gender dysphoria.
Can actually experience. Yeah, that's actually an additional thing, to just to be clear,
which is not required.
So
to be
it's not required. Yeah, it's a different thing.
Mm-hmm. What's the difference?
But that being said,
usually gender dysphoria requires medical treatment.
So go ahead, finish your point, Meat, and then we're gonna move on.
Yeah. So just real quick, The reason I wanted to make that clear is because I think if we want to be real clear, we need to establish the standard that we're using to like when someone has gone too far in the field of comedy. And I think the standard we seem to use, and where this seems to be interesting, is that we tend to break it off when someone is like either advocating for something directly that is unacceptable or where they're actually spreading misinformation. And the only place where I can see that maybe Dave Chapelle is actually crossing that line, and I'll pass it to everyone else to talk about it from here, is when he says, the science is in, gender is sex, is rooted in biology. That's it. That is just fact. That is flat out, and that's why I needed to make that clear, not rooted in the scientific facts that we live in today.
Okay, go ahead,
That's
Ryan.
what he said?
Ryan.
Yeah, that's
All
one of
right,
the things he
so
said.
I feel as though there's a really important thing we need to clarify here. Or I actually really like that religious denomination argument that someone made, and you have to realize that for example, in Christianity, for example, a prime belief in that specific branch of Abrahamic religions is that Jesus Christ was the reincarnation of God, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
And so almost objectively, if you don't believe that, then you aren't really a Christian, because that's kind of the definition of Christianity. And that's where the objective line is. Now, we have to clarify that we don't actually know the objective line for gender and sex yet. And the reason for this is because, sure, you could apply a biological argument that something is real or fake. But the thing is, gender theory is rooted completely in psychology. And psychology is an extremely iffy field already because we know jack shit about the brain. Like, we don't even know why people actually have to sleep yet either. And so drawing a biological line on a psychological theory is a complete fallacy. And the thing is, we don't know the and we aren't able to draw an objective line for such a psychological theory yet. This is why we can't really say for sure whether or not gender and sex are real or fake yet. That's just my take on it.
Someone else got a chance to talk. I guess Mint, you haven't got a chance to talk, so. And thank you for being here, Top Dolphin. Nice to see you, buddy.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I mean, a couple people said this is the way a person expresses themselves in society, and that's what gender's based around. But that's not true, because when people speak about gender, people say a male can identify as a female or as a woman. They don't have to dress differently. They don't have to present any different way. They can present themselves just like or what we would consider a man. As long as they believe that they're a woman, then we have to recognize them as a woman. So they don't have to present anything differently. As long as they say that they're a woman, then they are.
No, I don't
Yes.
know what you. I don't. Okay, well, here's a disagreement. So let's figure out how or why. I don't understand kind of like where this is coming from. So you're saying a cisgender male just all of a sudden one day decides like you will all now address me as female? And
Yes.
that's being trans?
That's
Well, no. What I'm saying
is that what you're
No.
saying happens like biologically? Like a cisgender male will eventually say, "I'm now a
no,
female."
that's not.
He's
treat
saying
me
That's
as-"
not what.
it's the
What I'm
litmus
saying
test.
is a person does not have. You're saying the standard is how this person presents themselves in society, but that's not. It's how they identify themselves. So if they identify themselves as a woman, they don't have to dress as a woman. They don't have to walk around looking like what we would call a woman, and their gender is still valid, or is supposed to be still valid.
No, maybe I
Yes.
didn't do it. Okay, well then let me finish. Maybe I didn't do a good enough job, because what you have typically is an interaction in between how this individual then interacts with society, correct? So I don't know if you go to a lot of drag shows, they're a really fun fucking time. I completely recommend that you do. If you do go, you'll understand that there are a bunch of biological males that dress up as women and are interacted as such as women, and then when they come back from behind the stage, they're just men, right? So in that interaction, you're treating that person as a female. Now, to be clear, not all cross-dressers are transgender, and not all transgender people are cross-dressers. What I'm specifically talking about is during that interaction, as a society, you interact with that individual as a female. Does that make sense?
No, that doesn't.
Okay.
Because you're saying that the way you're supposed to interact with this person is how you perceive them, and that is completely
because that's tied in with how they want to be perceived, right? As
no.
socially.
You don't know that. That's the whole issue. Because if I walk up to no, hold on. If I walk up to someone and
Sure.
they present and what I think to be feminine,
Right.
I'm not allowed to say, "Oh, well, you're a woman," because I perceive you as a woman. If that person says, "You know what? No, I identify as a man."
I mean,
Right.
mint
Nobody's
is not,
So it's not
nobody's
about.
nobody's stopping you, but when you're informed, it would be polite and caring, and you wouldn't be a piece of shit if you did interact with them as such. If you have a
So
difference of agreement, that's fine. The point of how and why we do this is for interactions in society to make better outcomes for people.
but you're not making any sense. You said that's fine. So you're saying that if a person, what I thought presented as a woman, identifies as a man, that's fine.
Right.
That gender is
No,
valid.
no, and when they tell you, I identify as such, you have the choice to either acknowledge and continue on in society.
Okay, but I'm not
or
talking about
encourage-
me. I'm talking about them. If they present
Yes, but I
as
just.
what?
Mhm. Go ahead.
So if they present,
Mint.
hold on, just wait,
I-
just
Just let him. I'll let you answer, Desperado.
Mint,
so if
my
they
6-year-old takes and pretends that he's a cowboy. He doesn't dress like a cowboy. He has no cowboy clothes on. He doesn't have a hat on, doesn't have a belt, doesn't have a gun, doesn't have none of that stuff. But for all intents and purposes, he is a cowboy. Whether or not he dresses like one or not. And I treat him like he's a cowboy. And when he decides that he wants to be a Power Ranger, I let him be a Power Ranger. I don't tell him, you are not a Power Ranger because you're not wearing the, Power Ranger armor. You're not wearing the Power Ranger medal, whatnot. You
Yeah,
can't be a Power Ranger.
agreeing
You're
with
a
that.
horrible person.
It's your 6-year-old pretending to be
with the
something
point that
fake.
You're
I mean,
not
you're
making
agreeing
a.
with the
you're-
point that I
But you're
made.
going
Well,
No,
along
here's
you're
the
not.
thing.
You're not
Is
making
he-
an important distinction in between why this category interacts with the other one. You're just saying somehow this person should be labeled whatever they want to be labeled. Nobody's making that argument. What we're saying is,
That is
In-
the argument for transgenderism
for
Yes.
some
and
small,
the whole gender identity that we're talking about in our society. That is
it
the
has
argument.
to interact with society. There's no denying this. Okay.
No, it doesn't.
It's probably
It's
just, like,
how
the same
that
category as, like,
person
a fetish,
identifies.
but, like,
It's not
in
how
a
they
furry.
dress. It's not how they present. It's not how you perceive them.
Yeah.
It's how
There's
they
no-
identify.
There's no limits on self-identification.
Right. Sure. I mean,
Right.
there is a limit in how we choose to recognize in a society, right? We don't typically recognize people's rights as trees, right? We recognize
Yeah,
their
but
rights
maybe we've
as
just
people.
been, erasing them.
Well,
Wait, also,
congratulations.
Roberto?
I don't subscribe to that, and that's not
Me
what this
neither.
transgender conversation is about. That's a
It's
little
about
more
no, it
amorphous.
is. It is about.
of a
It's
term.
about the ability to. It's about whether or not the term man or woman are based in biology.
We agree that they are.
No,
no, I don't think we
It
do.
sounds like you
No,
don't agree.
we don't.
That. You don't agree with that.
We don't. A male and
I don't
female.
know.
Thank
Red
you.
is
There's
like
a-
We
Red is like
agree-
all over the place.
Yeah,
I don't
we
know.
agree.
I think we
that
agree that male and
between
female are
this-
connected to biology, but they're not based
Right.
in biology.
No, they're
Or
based
No, no.
in biology.
Hold on, let's
I
get
think this is
let's
where
get
the
this straight.
disagreement is,
Male and
right?
female, man and woman, right? Those are two different sets. So like, be clear on what you're
Right.
going to say because what's going to happen and what's already happening is people are bouncing back and forth,
Yeah.
and you're gonna fuck
Right.
up the argument. So I'll state my position: male and female, sex, man and woman, gender. Okay, right? You guys may fall someplace different. That's okay, but that's where I'm putting the line. And so, like, if you agree with me, well then keep to that: male, female, sex, man, woman, gender. Or you can make this a lot more difficult.
I just gotta explain mine because mine's not the same as yours. But go ahead.
Okay. Why don't you go Brento and then I guess Ryan?
Okay. Male, female, and that's across like all species, like across like all mammal species. It's in fish, it's in the insects, it's
Plants.
in the birds, it's in plants, it's in everything, right? So that's our like basis in life, and we call an adult male a man, an adult female a woman, and those are specific terms defined by that. And if you want to expand the category and erase what the original term meant, then it kind of just is not as important.
Okay. All right. Ryan?
I really just want to comment on a Desperado's analogy. I really wish he was here too, so that I could get a better idea of what he was going for. But that analogy kind of plays into a counterpoint, or because the only reason why you're going along with that 6-year-old is to appease him, and because he's lesser in his mental development.
Yeah.
So by applying
the
that
point
same
is
logic, you're
to
basically
help
saying that
the point is
who
to
identify
assess and
differently
help
from
with
Oh,
that mental
let
development.
Ryan finish the point, please, Ryan.
Yeah, like, but if you're using that analogy, then by that logic, you're basically saying that people who identify differently from their biological gender are basically incapable of receiving something that defies their identification, and that
I would disagree
just
with
go
you.
along with them so that they can feel comfortable.
Okay. Yeah, I would disagree with that because it's a society's duty to make its people comfortable, right? So we create these categories in a sense of making sense of our world, and we have to figure out and address what these categories are purpose and function is. Does that make a little bit more sense? It's
I can
not
understand.
it's not a direct one-to-one comparison like a trans person is inept as a child. The point was to compare the idea of I feel and I express this way, therefore when I'm interacting with society it treats me as such. Does that kind of like help
Yeah.
separate it out for you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
and that
regarding the
hold on,
society point, I find that
Not yet. Go ahead, Ryan, finish your point. Then I want to go to Brento, and then Nasty hasn't been able to speak for a while, so I want to make sure. Okay.
all right, yeah. With the society point, I agree with you, but society shouldn't warp facts in order to make people feel comfortable. I'm not saying that trans people are necessarily fake or real because again I stated my position before. You can't apply a biological argument on it to a psychological theory. We don't know if it's really facts yet. But I'm just saying that in the case that evidence points towards or against that idea, then we should accept it objectively.
Right, but that has no interference. Like science should not necessarily have an interference on like what we do as a society. And what I mean by that, to help kind of clarify it, let's say that there is no biological reason that trans people are actually trans, right? Like there's nothing different about their brains. It's a mode of how they learn. Again, this is a hypothetical. This is not how I understand the science to be. This is what I am saying. If that is the case, and there is a high rate of suicide, so these people are not functioning as well in our society, then it is the law and government's responsibility to make sure that these people do and are able to, right? So while we do need to be guided on empirical evidence, and that will always be important, when we talk about social aspects and how we are as people, it's very different. And it's very important that we understand how to treat and interact with one another. Does that
Yeah,
feel like
that's true.
Well, I
Go
understand
ahead.
what you're saying regarding
Go-
respect and preventing
yeah,
such
sure.
tragedies happening, but again, and especially what you said with government, like
Mhm.
the danger with warping facts to prevent tragedy is that it could seriously hinder scientific progress.
But you're not listening. I don't
No, I'm
feel
saying
that these are analogous. Like I don't see, and it doesn't seem like we are warping facts because again, at least how Prime and apparently Prime and I see is that these are two separate categories. We still function in a biological way. We still function off of sex, but on a social spectrum, and when it comes to governance, we function this way because that's how we, as a society, are moving forwards as a species.
Oh, yeah,
So
no,
that means
help?
that wait, can I
I
just
wasn't
say
saying
really
that it's
quick? Can I
necessarily
just
wrong.
You just
Hold
made
on,
2
let
boxes,
Ryan.
right?
Hold
Oh,
on,
go ahead.
just let Ryan.
Yeah, I wasn't saying that it's
Okay.
necessarily wrong because again, we don't know for sure
Right.
whether or
Yeah.
not it's actually facts yet. But I'm saying in the
Yeah.
case that we do find evidence, like absolute objective evidence for or against, we have to accept it that way, or else we'll end up just going backwards, really, in progress.
Well, yeah, I don't think I'm necessarily denying that. What I am trying to deal with is the social aspect that does seem incontroversial, right? As far as like how they are treated and what they do suffer. What I'm trying to clarify is that while those facts, and again, this is not how I know or believe this to be, this is an idea. If that is the case, that there is no biological reason, again, not as far as I understand, there's no evidence for either or, that society, how we do our laws and our governance should not matter and impact these folks.
Yeah,
Let's
and I
go.
was going to go on to
Sorry,
say that
I just
it shouldn't be
you got to
government's
speed it
job.
up because we got other people online.
All right, yeah. I was going to say that it shouldn't be government's job to regulate how people and society functions. That's just how people interact with each other. Government shouldn't interfere in that unless it's absolutely necessary.
I mean, that's not
Okay.
true.
Yeah,
though,
they
because, like, for
should.
example,
let's-
like we say that, like, you
Hu-
can't
hurry
say
up.
that this person
hold on,
can't move into an
you got to make your
apartment
point
because they're
quick because
black, right?
we got to make your point very quick because we got other people who are waiting. So make your point quick, and then I'm gonna go to Brento.
Okay. I want to hear what he has.
Yeah,
Go
top.
ahead.
Yeah,
Go on.
make your point quickly.
Go on,
Oh, I was
Top Dolphin, I
saying,
wanna hear
like,
what you were saying.
when we to some levels, government does determine how we can like organize ourselves and like work. For
Right.
example, we say that like a apartment owner can't discriminate on people based on like the race or gender. Like we tell apartment owners, hey, if you want to own apartments and let people live here, you have to do it regardless of like certain characteristics.
Brento.
Right.
I don't know. I just when redhead, when you did that,
Yeah,
you did the little diagram. You're like, sex is here, right?
Sure.
And then
Right.
here's gender, and I think like gender should like we should build our government around gender. It's like, no, you build your government around sex
Why?
Why?
because it makes life. It's like you build your grocery stores and your restaurants around food because that's what you can actually eat and survive on, right? Like sex creates life, and so that should be the basis for your fucking government, like and your
Look,
society.
I am
Like,
all about making
It
a
doesn't
government
mean
around
you
sex.
discriminate, but
I
it
love
means
a
that you
24
understand it.
fuck fest, but this is not relevant to like how
I'm
we
not.
actually.
I'm not.
function.
I'm not talking about pornographic fucking sex shit. I'm talking about like the function of life. It's so basic, and I can't even believe that it's such a weird thing to say. Like
Do you
it's
think it's basic that lesbians
Civilization.
exist?
yeah, I guess.
Okay, so what is the inherent reproductive benefit of having lesbians then?
I don't know, man. I think they can still have
Well,
kids if
okay,
they
then
want
why
to.
the fuck would I organize my society around sex?
Because most people and most life on the planet, that's how it fucking continues. What do you mean?
I
What are
don't
you
care
talking
what a
about?
rabbit
well,
does.
then-
I don't give a shit about the
The
social
not just rabbits, dude.
structure
It's
of a
people.
lobster.
It's everything.
I don't give
man.
a rat's ass.
What
We
you
are
are
people.
versus what you decide to be. Like what you are is just what you are, and then what you feel
Right.
like you want to be later on in life can be whatever that is. But like
Okay,
there is
then
what
let
you
them be
are that needs
trans.
to be the basis of our
So-
society.
So
The real
I guess
question is-
so what I want to
Like,
get to,
you
what I want to
can't
get to
have a
is
different
like
reality from one person to the next if you're talking about like what you are as a human being.
what
like,
are
either
what,
a man
what
or
are
a
the
woman.
Exactly.
policy implications of this, right? Like because you guys are worried about like what a quote unquote real woman is. All right, so what are the policy implications? So you can you can quibble, you can decide that you feel like trans women are not real. Okay, whatever, fine, right? Whatever you feel inside, who gives a shit, right? Or whatever I feel inside, who gives a shit, right? So but like what matters is policy implications. What are the policy implications of what you're saying? Nasty, you had your
So
hand
I
up.
don't. So I don't. I'm not gonna sit here and like tell other people, grown adults, how to live their lives, how to present themselves in society, how to express themselves, what groups to be a part of, what subreddits to go find. Right.
Sure.
That's not my business. So I don't think any policy positions or any policy changes should happen, other than preventing those policies that target young children who might be going through identity crisis. Right.
Oh, there
who
we
might not
go.
know what they And that's where I draw the line.
There we
I draw
go.
the
So that's a
line when it
policy.
comes
So that's a
back to
policy
kids who don't
implication.
know any
Okay,
better.
thank you for like.
That's
Thanks for pretending that you didn't
There's
want,
no-
and didn't
there's no
have one, but then
policy now.
actually finally saying that you do have one. Okay,
there we
that's
no, we
fair
need to
enough.
prevent some from coming up.
Okay, all right.
You
So
need to let them
you're
know
so discriminating
from
against
the
trans
work.
kids. Got it. All right. So
There's no such thing as trans kids, dude.
oh,
They
there we
grow
go.
up
See, and this
and
is
then
why this
keep fighting.
matters. This is why this matters, right?
Okay,
Because you
fine.
can't keep it inside,
All
right?
you.
So you come on here and you pretend, right, that oh yeah, I'm separate from all this. I wouldn't tell a person, what they could do, right? But then in actuality, oh, these people aren't actually real.
But he said-
That doesn't
he said, "I
actually
wouldn't
matter. Hold
tell
on,
a
Mitt, you don't
child."
interrupt. You don't need to interrupt me. Like, oh, these people don't actually really exist, right? And so, like, because you don't actually think that trans women exist, right? And then you take it to children. Although, yeah, there's no trans kids, obviously, right? Because you have this in your head that these people are like just making it up as they go along, right? So it's not actually real, and they're just facing some sort of temporary crisis, right? Since you don't believe it's a real thing. So at least have it out and be honest about it. Then making up,
state of mind.
I have no policy implications except for I reject any policy initiative that is
So then
pro
what's
trans
gender
kids.
dysphoria? What's gender dysphoria? What is that then?
That you're not
Is that
required to
just a
have
decision?
gender dysphoria
Yeah,
in
you
order
don't
to be
need that.
trans.
Be what?
There
To
are-
be trans? Or are
right,
two
there are
different
plenty-
types of trans people, like ones that
Well-
have dysphoria and ones that don't?
No, there are just trans people, and some people suffer from gender dysphoria, and some people do not.
And the treatment for that is what exactly?
It depends on how far and whatever psychological fix that they want. You want to look up the DSM-5, man? Go ahead. Go look it up.
Yeah, sure.
I mean,
I'm
while
just
you're
saying-
there, you can also look up the numbers of trans
But I
kids
find confusion is,
detransitioning.
what
That's
other
not
mental
happening
illness-
that much.
What other mental illness do you know of that's in the DSM-5, right? That's cured by altering your physical biology.
Depression.
What?
So you're altering your brain chemistry.
The purpose of
that's
having
Correct.
it in the
By
DSM-5.
working out and being healthier, it helps you manage depression.
The purpose of having
Next
that
question.
specifically in the DSM-5, like trans people have advocated for having that there because then it allows help, right?
Right.
Like they don't consider what they have. The desire to transition to be a mental disorder. However, in our country, unless it falls within that category, you can't access certain help, right? So administratively, like it's actually a benefit to have that there. And so to compare it to other things, like I don't know, it's bipolar because it's the first thing off my top of my head. To compare that to other things is unfair. Like those two things don't work. They don't have like well, and, I shouldn't even say that because sometimes there are communities that like, hey, I'm suffering from a thing and I need help, and we need to put it within this book, right? Or else we can't access certain services, right? Like insurance. Like if you can't bill it, then how do you get insurance, right? To help you out.
Sure.
Trans people get insurance benefits?
Sorry, go ahead.
Everybody gets insurance. Well, you would hope, but
Some
Let's see, United States.
insurance
Like
will
file
cover
for disability or
transitioning.
something?
Sorry,
Like,
go
what do
ahead. Go ahead, please.
Top Dolphin, did you?
No,
wanna-
no,
I thought
no,
you
no,
said-
no. I'm
Oh,
doing it. Thank you.
Good.
No, thank you. Nasty, you have something to say?
For me?
Yeah, I thought you said something at the end. I didn't hear it.
No, I was just saying, like, what benefits? Like, what do you mean? Like, they can't go to therapy or they can't get medication? Like, they can't. What can't
Yeah,
they
all
do?
those things. Yeah,
If it's
if you
so,
can't
you can't
bill
go to
it.
therapy if you don't have a
Do
condition
you,
that's
do you
in
know?
the DSM-5.
Have you ever been involved? How familiar
Like
are you with
insurance
the medical
company stuff.
industry?
Like you can't
yeah.
bill insurance.
Yeah, like it has to be coded. You have to be able to code whatever it is, right? It has to be. If it's not coded, then you can't bill for it, which is very important. And then people aren't going to provide you those services if they can't bill you for it.
So it's only in the DSM-5 to give trans people the ability to have insurance benefits.
I'm
That's
just-
Well,
only
no, there's a
I mean,
societal
partially,
benefit.
I said-
The
I said-
DSM-5 is more of like a training manual for physicians to
There's a
understand
medical
this
benefit,
disease
by the way.
or this
Like-
whatever you'd like to call it, as far as like this mental issue. That would be why we have it in the DSM-5. So
want to say one last
physicians
thing
can
on this
address it.
topic.
Yeah, sure. man.
Myself, at least. So it's like where I'm trying to get at, like the bottom line with this whole mental illness versus non-mental illness. Like it's cool. I get there's like things people suffer from that they then take steps to solve in the future, right?
Sure.
But what I'm saying is that there's no other mental illness or mental condition or mental state of mind that's solved by altering your physical biology or chemistry other than
Depression.
antidepressants,
Depression.
which are controversial, right? Even you said yourself, there's other things you can do to solve that depression, to change the chemistry in your mind. But I don't think gender or the feeling of what sex you are or gender you are is a chemical imbalance. Is that what you're implying? That's a chemical
No.
imbalance?
What
I'm
difference does
implying
it
that you go read the DSM-5.
What difference does it make if there's nothing else, right? Like, what difference does that make? How you're putting some sort of a pencil
So like
points on that?
depression is a chemical imbalance, right? So you're giving people a
It can be.
supplementary, okay, sure, it can be.
We're
But that's so
bordering on
like
misinformation
arbitrary.
right
like,
So, but
you're
I
using
don't
the
understand
argument of
why do you?
antidepressants and SSRIs, right?
Well,
To alter your
good.
brain chemistry. That's
What-
one thing we do to alter biology to solve a mental condition, right? What other, like, you're not mutilating
is
your
there-
body, you're taking
Is there any other
hormones, like, there's no
condition
other mental
like
illness
this?
that's
Is there
solved
any
by-
other condition like this? Right? Like, is there any other condition like gender dysphoria?
Have
Anorexia,
to
It depends on what you mean.
body
Are
dysphoria.
there,
People
are
who
there
think
other
they're overweight, but
conditions
they're
that
not.
share commonalities with
Mhm.
gender dysphoria? Yes. Are there aspects of gender dysphoria that are unique to gender dysphoria? Yes. Are there aspects of other mental illnesses that are unique to those mental illnesses? Yes. These are not the proper. These are not the relevant categorizations. And I just need to be clear about this. I just wanted to clear up some facts that I feel like are maybe being missed. But even if just by implication, the DSM-5, maybe those are reasons, and they're good reasons why those are all good benefits of having that that stuff in the DSM-5. But the underlying reason it should be in there and should persist in there is the reason anything is in the DSM-5 is because the reason we put things in the DSM-5 is because there are certain groupings statistically of certain symptoms, all right, that tend to group in certain ways. And when we can group these things in categories that give them predictive results, all right, then we can actually treat them. And sometimes these treatments have to be individualized, but grouping these things allow us to put them into categories that we can treat with predictive results, get results across averages, and then we go, this is a real condition with demonstrable results when we can categorize it and treat it, and that's how we know it's a real thing, and we put it in the DSM-5.
Or what
I
are
just
the
want to be real
treatments
clear
to
about that.
validate it in society?
Sure.
Is one of the treatments just to
So-
validate it and say it's okay, and then it's a cool
Well, it-
little
Right, so hold on.
It does seem
Yes.
like social acceptance,
Yes.
particularly in family members, is one of the best treatments. And this is kind of more particular to family members, which you could argue is societal, is one of the best and most effective treatments of decreasing gender dysphoria suicide or trans suicide. Does that help you understand?
No. I think Professor Meat's going for something different. He's talking about on a societal level that unless like we have some sort of governmental
answering
or
that,
I'm
Steve.
saying
No,
whatever
he's
it
talking about
is,
something-
there's all sorts of ways that we can treat these things, and the gender dysphoria is definitely one of the number one most conditions that have to be individualized. But then you see the alarm bells are going to go off for a lot of people and say, oh, it's super individualized, so that means the treatment isn't really anything, so it's not real. No, we know it is real because when we take these abstract practices that we teach to therapists, and then they apply these principles across the population, we see an overall benefit. Now, I also want to fight back on something. This is a huge misunderstanding of something said earlier. Maybe I'm scared I might be backtracking, but we made this claim that psychology is like an iffy science. All right, so I want to make this really clear. The way that psychology is iffy is that it is one of the number one fields, like sociology, that have a lot of reproducibility problems in the studies. Now, that isn't necessarily a huge problem because scientific consensus, when the scientific community forms scientific consensus, they go through studies, they look at them, they perform reviews, case studies, they go through a lot, and then they come to their decisions, all right? So just because there's a decrease in reproducibility of studies doesn't mean that the applied science is any less valid because, and we know that it actually just is as valid, because when we try to measure the success rate of diagnosis and treatment, we get similar results when we try for a most applications of treatments in psychology when we start to compare these to the accuracy of diagnostics in medicine. And I forget there's a specific word for that statistic. Maybe I shouldn't have even brought it up if I'm not educated enough to remember it. But that's
excuse me, Dustin. I have it. Please don't direct the conversation. Thank you. I have this. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm trying to get Professor. I'm trying to help
please
him.
don't.
I'm done. That's
no,
it.
I got it. Thanks.
He's trying to help me. I'm sorry.
Well, no, thanks. Okay. Let's go to Topped Off and Mint and then Ryan.
So I disagree a little bit, not too much with what Professor Meat said. Psychology, I don't think is a soft science because the results aren't reproducible. In fact, results on certain things are very, very, very reproducible. The problem with psychology and what makes it a soft science, like economics, by the way, is also soft science, isn't that it's reproducible. It's the inability to, because we're dealing with humans, to isolate variables. So when you do a scientific experiment in like a lab environment, we create a lab environment, you are supposed to isolate what they call like confounding variables, so that like there is only one thing being changed. The problem is to do this with humans is impossible, and in cases where it is possible, it's often unethical. Like you can't like take a child and like raise them in a certain way outside of society because it would be considered like child abuse, right? This is why a lot of the cases, things in psychology are considered like a soft science. The same reason with economics is considered soft science, or sociology is because you can't isolate individual variables to the same level as you can in like a lab environment for what they consider hard sciences.
Right. So I just want to clarify why we're sort of not why we're only rhetorically in disagreement for the sake of educating our beautiful audience out there.
Sometimes you can't reproduce stuff. Yeah, I give you
right. That exactly I was going to say. I just want to be very clear. That's what. So what you're really describing, because we can get similar results when we reach scientific consensus most of the time. What the real problem is to bridge the gap here, just to be clear, is that because there's a big difference in our ability to control humans and populations, because it would be unethical if we applied the same rigor of control as we do to like atoms that don't have feelings, right? Even though there's tons of things we don't understand about the physical universe and the mind, all right? Tons. We don't know how much we don't understand in both those cases. No one kid themselves, all right? Because we can't practically control for psychology and society and identify some of these factors as much. As a result, coming to some conclusions, and thus reproducibility studies, is a lot more difficult. But it doesn't mean that the conclusions that we do come to are necessarily less valid. That is the distinction.
Another example, like I said economics, but medicine is also kind of like a soft science in this way. A lot of things are based off of like
they have comparable results
medical
in terms
things
of,
like clinical medicine, not like research, but like clinical medicine. There's a lot of things when it comes to like treating people, like treating things like the flu or treating things like I don't know, like heart disease, that are extremely individualized and you can't really control for them. So it has like the same sort of problem. So like psychology.
Yes,
is just
I just want to be clear that that's not bad.
Medicine. It's not like inherently a bad thing. It just makes it like a different category of things.
Well, it's not any different from any other applied helping people like form of medicine. It's just like, that's what I'm trying to be clear about. It has similar like results in terms of like a treating and results. That's all I'm trying to be clear about.
So let's go to
I don't want anyone to be confused
Mint
about
and
that.
Ryan.
Yeah,
Mine's very complex.
I said
so,
Mint. Hold on. I said Mint, then Ryan. So Mint, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Yeah, so kind of getting back to like we were talking about like the DSM-5, and we were talking about like how to treat like gender dysphoria. When we're looking at like, and people ask like a comparable, somebody say anorexia, we kind of gloss over it. Like for a person who was anorexic, the solution wouldn't be to support them and to help them achieve their body goal, because it would require, usually we would deem it like a negative thing. So I think the question that someone was trying to ask, well, why would we do that, you know, with someone who was suffering from gender dysphoria?
So to try to answer that then, their body goal in terms of a person with anorexia is something that is deadly, right? The goal of a person who, with gender dysphoria, like switching to or having their appearance match their internal image of themselves, like is not deadly, right? That's not something that'll threaten their lives, other than what society will do to them. Correct?
No, I wouldn't say it would have to be deadly. I think it could be considered unhealthy. It would be like how extreme their case was, and I would say the same thing for someone who wanted to like modify their body. And how extreme did they want to go? And just I don't want to go too far back, but I when I was like joining my gym, it said, well, not that, I'll talk about the TSA. Like there were problems with trans people going through like the TSA, and because they didn't present enough of the gender that they identify with when they were being searched, they would request, oh no, I identify as a woman, so I want a woman to search me. But because they didn't present enough, people didn't validate that request, and they would say, oh no, you have to be searched by a man. So this kind of goes back to what me and Ray were talking about. Like, it's not based off how society perceives you. Your gender identity is valid just because that's what you believe, regardless of how you present.
Oh, sorry. Well, okay, that's you said you're going back. Okay, so that's a separate thing. But and I guess we can go back to that in a second. I just kind of want to focus on this thing. Saying that true. Like if you identified as a cube, right, and you wanted to turn your body into a cube, that would be a problem. But transitioning to male or female isn't extreme, right? People do it all the time, and it's okay. What's not okay is how society treats them, right? Like that would be the main issue, right? Beyond like the extreme part would be. Actually, I just don't see the extreme part. But
Really?
you seem to see
You don't
that.
see it?
It's not extreme at all.
You don't see it?
In no
It's
way,
not
shape,
I
or
say no. So I guess no. We're defining it differently. Like if you're talking about major surgery and being involved, sure, right? But I'm saying like comparing that to anorexia, right? And that body dysmorphia, and saying, oh, I'm so fat or something, right? I need to keep getting thinner and thinner and thinner. That's what I would consider extreme, and life threatening. Going through the various surgeries of transitioning, I would not consider extreme, like at all, right? It's major, certainly a major life decision, certainly, but I don't consider that extreme because you can live your life perfectly well that way.
Well, Prime, then if you would consider it major, if that's what you're okay with going to, then why would you allow children to start to make that type of change or that type of decision?
You mean like
Because
going on blockers?
Yeah.
yeah,
Which they can get off of later
hold on.
on?
Blockers is so major
the fact that
surgery
you
is
can
like
stop
a
doing
classification,
something-
right?
Wait,
So like
okay,
major surgery
wait.
is usually anything where you have to like go under anesthesia, right? I believe that's the classification. And there might be a little bit. I think brain surgery sometimes you don't go under full anesthesia, but like that's different. But but when he says major surgery, right? Children, we generally don't put them under we do put them under major surgeries for lots of different things. But in terms of like gender dysphoria, oftentimes what we do what's called hormone blockers, which isn't major, isn't a major change, isn't major surgery or anything like that.
Very invasive.
Intrusive, though.
It's very
It's
like
No, it's not. It's
Intrusive,
it's
yeah,
actually the
no,
opposite
it's
of
not.
hormone
It's-
blockers are the
Wait,
opposite
wait.
of invasive.
Wait,
Like,
wait,
if you don't know
okay,
what
I just
invasive
wanted to say
means, but
something.
it's
I
by
wanted to say
definition
something
not
really
invasive.
quickly. I want to say something really quickly. Like I hear this a lot. Prime, it was your response where you're like something is not healthy or okay just because you can stop doing it. People are like, hey, hormone blockers. Yeah, and you know what? They can stop doing them too. And it's like, oh, great, good, because they shouldn't. They shouldn't do them to begin with. But the fact that someone can stop doing something doesn't make it healthy. Doesn't make it right.
Doing something. Did I say that? I didn't say
Well,
that.
can
That was
I
like your
answer?
response to about.
That
Can I
wasn't my.
answer
But
that,
I didn't say that. Just who wants to
I
respond?
thought then I thought I heard that, but my mistake.
Topped off,
But
and
I
you said
well,
you
don't
want to
think I did
respond.
though.
well,
Yeah,
I didn't say that either.
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah. So Prime, my question would be, I guess, what if this child's identity is valid, and if they can decide, why wouldn't you allow them to undergo the surgery?
I think that we limit kids' freedoms all the time. right? Maybe I would. Hell, maybe I would. But oh, thank you, Dawn, for the kind sub. Thank you so much. Right? That's the choice everyone can make. Is to sub to the channel, support this community. All right? It's the right and proper choice. Should all identify as PrimeCayes subscribers. But thank you, seriously, Dawn, for the kindness. But I think we limit kids' freedoms as to what they can do all the time, right? And so sometimes surgeries, major surgeries outside of this, like a child can't consent to without like adult, right? They make those medical decisions for them. So this would be another one of those reasons.
I draw an analogy. I see it just one.
Yeah, quickly draw an analogy. Ryan,
So
I began about
if you
you.
have like a, if you're like a, let's say you're just like a typical like bimbo, right? And you got like this daughter who wants to like get like plastic surgery or Botox when she's like 14 or 15, right? And you don't think that's intrusive. You don't think that's that bad. So you just let them do it, right? Whereas other parents might not think that's appropriate. Where if a girl wants to dress up as a princess or an astronaut, whatever they want to identify as, they're cool with it. But there's a line that certain parents draw, right? So I think that's where the differences lie when it comes to like what's acceptable versus not acceptable when it comes to changing your or expressing your
That some parents want to do it and some parents don't. Is that useful?
Can youth get
Hold on.
plastic
Yeah.
I'm saying the line is like to say that one thing it's one like intrusive versus non-intrusive. I think like some parents are gonna think it's normal to give their kid a full-on like sex change. Some parents might think that's normal.
No. When Top Dolphin and I are talking about intrusive versus non-intrusive, we're talking about like the actual definition of that, not like what some person's interpretation. Like surgery is intrusive, right? Taking a pill is not considered an intrusive medical intervention.
Major. I'm sorry.
Intrusive, major, whatever.
Yeah,
it's not
it would be
that.
invasive, right?
Invasive,
so major surgery
invasive,
is what's considered invasive. You can't say something's like invasive.
Sorry, invasive, not intrusive. Excuse me.
Yes.
Let's go to. Do you have anything else quickly to say on that? Then I want to go to Ryan. Nasty.
Yeah, I do, but I know Ryan's been waiting for a while, so go ahead. I can wait.
Nasty.
I have more on this topic,
Okay. Then
but
Ryan, go
Ryan
ahead.
can go ahead.
Okay, so I can go now? Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
So, well, the reason why I said psychology is an iffy science, not only just because of the reasons Top Dolphin said quite well, but also because it's a direct, psychology is a direct a branch of brain science, essentially. It's just the outward representation. And we understand so little about the brain, and not just that, but science in general, it depends on the field of science, but generally psychology and medicine, like someone else said earlier, are especially iffy. Because, again, it's really hard to isolate those variables because every effect you see in medicine is due to a
No,
really
we agreed that they
fragile
weren't
equilibrium
actually
in your
iffy.
body.
That's what we agreed on. Just to be clear, we all agreed that they weren't iffy in
Did we all
practice.
agree on anything?
Well, we agreed that they weren't. We agreed that they weren't any more iffy than medical practice.
iffy.
We agreed that it was equal
Yeah.
to medical practice.
Yeah,
I said that, and no one disagreed with me.
I would like behoove you. I don't know the word for that.
We
is.
agreed.
That you should like
Well, it's
actually
facts.
go
I
and
can
look
prove it.
at
You wanna
like
put a study? I mean-
like medical standards for like how we treat like illnesses, because you think for a lot of them there's like really good scientific bases for how they work biologically, and like the medical science behind it's all there. But in a lot of cases, the medical treatments that we work, they work because we use them because they work, not because there's some scientific reason behind it.
Okay.
Hey Ryan, I'm gonna post something in
Yeah,
the chat.
I was actually gonna say that as well, but thank you.
Hello, boys.
Hello. Hi.
Hello.
Figured if you guys are talking about women, you might as well have one on your panel tonight.
We're very
Freaking
excited to
sweet.
have you.
real woman?
We'll
Get
get
outta
to
Hola.
we'll get to you soon. We'll go. Ryan, finish up your thoughts, and then I wanted Brento and was it Dustin also wanted to say something, and then we can go to you, Dawn. Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Ryan.
Yeah.
Ryan,
But,
did you have any
again, like,
other thoughts?
Yeah, but again, like, either way, like, no matter the science of this that we have right now, these people that might identify differently from their biological sex are still people, and they're entitled to human rights. So someone may have a right to disagree with them, but the government has no right to refuse them medical practice that they feel necessary for their bodies.
Well, like a gynecologist? Come on, bro.
What?
You're kind of a putz, you know that,
Really?
right?
Okay.
You're telling me a
trans
trans
people
woman should
aren't
be able
like
to go
going
to
to
a
the
gynecologist and not be
gynecologist,
denied
right?
treatment. I'm sorry?
Wait,
Oh my
were you
God.
calling me a puss?
No, not you.
No, he's not going to. So before we start throwing on personal arguments, I'll push back on you, Ryan, a little bit. I'll push back on that. And maybe Brento or Mint would have done it for me. But to say that the government has no right to intrude, I think this is what kind of what Mint was getting at, right? But yeah, actually we do. Like society, we say that you can't do such certain things. Currently, in most states, right? You can't get a medical procedure to end your life, right? That's not legal. We decide as a society that we don't want that. Like I'm more in favor of assisted suicide, but but it's a society. Well, we decide that we can. The government can do that. And when it comes to abortion practices, I don't think we should be doing that. But we, as a society, put limits on that. So the society does that all the time, right?
No, I mean, based on like whether or not they and their doctor feel as though it would help them. Again, like doctors' opinions differ because medicine is such a soft science. But yeah, like if both the patient and the doctor agree that's going to help them, and it's not like completely out of the realm of feasible reality, then I think that the government shouldn't really have a say in that.
Okay. Let's go to Brento, Dustin, Dawn, and then Meat.
I just wanted to say, I mean, it got down. We were discussing, puberty blockers for trans kids, and I hear this argument. Well, you can get off of them, but that's not an argument that validates being on them. And if you stay on them, and if you stay on them through puberty, then you don't grow into a woman or a man. You just don't. You don't mature in your physical body. That's it. And then you can be sterile, and that is a way of that can neuter someone. I think it does neuter someone, and that seems like that's inducing a handicap.
Wait, so that's just not true, right?
Right.
So,
I
think
get
that
it.
is.
so I get what you're
Yeah.
saying. A lot of people will say, "Hey, well, if like the
can't-
the trans child changes their mind, they can go off of puberty blockers." They say they can go off of puberty blockers, but you're missing the part that goes with that, and that they generally
might not.
with very limited hindrance to it can then go through a normal puberty.
Can you
Right.
can you understand
No,
very,
that's
very
not
simply
true.
the fact that when people
No, that is true.
when someone says
It is true.
I'm like, hey, I have a problem that this is happening, and don't worry about that because we could stop if we wanted to. I'm like, well, then
Can I-
stop.
No,
I'm like,
that's
we're
not
not
what the
going
argument.
to. And
No,
like, oh,
the
well,
Can I
that's
argument
your
address-
is
problem.
wait.
Hold on.
So the argument is right that a trans child, right, who goes through the puberty of their biological sex rather than their cis, like as if they're cisgender if they're not trans. I can't think of the wording.
No, God. If they
um,
just don't transition.
Yeah, if they don't if they go through puberty, right?
Yes.
It costs immeasurable change that presents a significant harm to
Irreversible?
the individual, right?
It's certainly measurable.
irreversible change.
Yeah,
that
but
causes
that's just
significant
called
harm to their-
maturing in your body and growing
right?
up.
Wait,
That's what
so
you do.
with hormone blockers, right, which are very safe. We use them for all sorts of things.
Breast cancer. in
Hormone
children.
blockers, what we're saying is we can delay that process, right, to give the child time to make sure that they are on their decision before they transition, right? Because two things. One, the harm that is caused by the puberty that is irreversible, right, is a
course.
greater harm, right? In fact, it causes a lot of
I
people,
don't think
trans
that's
people to
true
kill
at
themselves.
all. I think that's completely
Let Top
false.
finish the point, and then you can respond, Brento.
Can be mitigated by puberty blockers, and the detriments. Fuck, I'm really bad with words right now. But the possible side effects of hormone blockers, if you have to stop taking them because they do change their mind, which doesn't happen very often, but it does happen, are very the risk is very low. because generally
very low
when you
for
come
what?
off of puberty blockers, because
You said the
hormone
risk.
blockers,
The risk of what?
because when
I mean,
you
what's the
come
risk?
off hormone blockers of the medication, right?
No. Not of the
There-
course of the medication. What are the risks? What are the flaws? What happens? What are you risking? What's the possible negative outcome?
But what is the possible negative outcome?
You have
there
a
could be-
delayed
with
puberty.
you have a delayed puberty. There are other possible negative outcomes, but every drug has negative outcomes. Like, have you ever listened to a drug
but that
commercial where
doesn't
they
make
read
them
the
right.
70
How
millions
yeah,
how
don't
young
take
of
those
a
drugs.
You don't
child
say-
are we
don't take
talking
drugs in the
about?
commercials.
No one says,
Fact that all the
hey,
drugs
we
that are
shouldn't give
commercial
kids
drugs say
fucking
they're gonna kill you
Motrin
doesn't
because
make
there's
this
like
okay.
10, 30 side effects on the back of the box, right?
Yeah, people do that all the fucking time.
How young of a child are we talking about? Are we talking about teenagers? Are we talking about 6 years old? Because I mean, when I was 6 years old, I went from wanting to be an astronaut to a princess to
You don't need to give hormone blockers to a 6-year-old
It's
because they
usually
don't.
before you go through puberty.
Yeah,
is when
they're not
it
going
really
through
happens.
puberty, so it's not a problem.
Prepubescent, yeah. But
so-
you don't have to give it like way before, just like before they start, or as they start. You can even give it later.
Let's go to Dustin and then Dawn and Amit. I think want to go next.
As far as I understand, why this puberty blockers has not been a controversial subject as far as like practices in medicine is because we've been doing this for like decades. We've been treating children that have breast cancer, we've been treating children that have thyroid cancer, and we use hormone blockers in order to help us battle and combat as a form of treatment during that chemotherapy. So that's why for decades this has not been an issue. That's why when this suddenly became an issue, it was about transgendered children. Right?
Yes, because it's not about hormone blockers. It's about the effect of
having
keeping kids from going through puberty. That's what the
Correct.
problem. It's not the hormone blockers.
Yes.
It's the
So when
keeping
we treat these
from going
children
through
and we have to,
puberty, right?
yes, you go
No,
through
they may
puberty,
not.
and it. Okay.
How does a
very
biological
isolated cases,
male
Okay.
go through a female puberty?
you give them female hormones. That's
Right.
how it
No,
works.
that doesn't put them through puberty.
Exactly, and
Yes,
that
it
doesn't
does.
give them all the.
No,
the
it
features.
doesn't.
Yes, it
They don't
does.
become
Okay,
women.
you're
They
not-
don't.
Dustin, keep
They
going.
That's
don't
true.
start menstruating. Yes, you're
No,
right.
they don't
You don't
start
understand.
they don't-
Hold on,
they don't become
Brento,
women
you're
if they
actually
ever
missing
start.
out on
not
biology
saying
here.
You're on this
Oh,
this
no.
fucking biological argument again.
Yeah, because that's
It
all
is
that's
not
important.
To you,
You're misunderstanding what puberty
you.
means, Brento, on a biological
not
level. I'm just
to
letting you
somebody
know.
that's suffering
Dude,
and has this fucking issue. Don't fucking dude me, you putz.
Go ahead.
To you. Since you don't have this issue, it's not an issue for you. Congratulations. I don't
It's a-
make my society around Brento fucking box.
I know you
brother.
don't, dude. I know, and you gotta.
thank
It's like
you.
you gotta. You're so inflated on this, and you just won't fucking like understand. You just don't get it. It's about male and female. It's about what it means to be a male human being and a female human being, and we don't like. We're not just gonna be like, oh, well, it just
I
means
gotta
nothing,
talk to you
or all
about
the
this,
words are
Brento.
nothing. Like it matters.
Another time.
No shit, it matters. That's why we're trying to get these children treated so they are on the proper path of becoming regular citizens and can
Yeah,
function
but
in our
they're
society.
kids, and they can't decide that for themselves.
No shit. That's why we have the physician. That's why we have parental permissions.
It
Nobody's
just seems
saying.
so. It seems. I
A
can't. I
fucking
don't
titty.
trust you. It doesn't.
Well,
No. What?
not my
Okay,
problem.
okay, we're
This
not
is,
really
this is
getting
the
anywhere
stupid
here.
shit. No, I know, Redhead. Like
Yeah,
you,
okay.
you don't
You
understand.
can ask
let-
Brento a question.
No, you don't
Uh,
have
as-
anything
We should talk more
relevant
about
for me
this.
not to understand.
So,
And I should. Wait, Prime. Can I apologize? That was unfair of me. I was pissed. I apologize. You do understand what you're saying. I disagree with you, but I shouldn't say it like that. Go ahead.
so let's
Sorry
go.
about that.
Let's go to Dawn, Meat, then Dolphin.
Yeah.
Okay, now as a woman, grew up as a teenager, went through the whole puberty thing and all that. It's like you don't. I mean, you can't. Your frontal cortex doesn't get fully matured until you're in your like 18, 19,
26.
even 26. Okay, I wasn't sure about the total medical thing.
On
Maybe
average.
So,
Yeah.
how can you make that type of a life-changing decision at 14 or 13 or even 16?
Professor
So like
Meat, you wanna take
hormone blockers aren't the life-changing
Yes.
decision, right? That's the
Hey, it's
point
my
of
turn.
hormone blockers is to prevent children from making life-changing decision because the side effects of hormone blockers are incredibly minimal and we can use that as a tool to delay puberty, right? So they'll just go through puberty later, right? And
Yeah, but there's
what,
consequences to that.
There's
very
consequences
few,
to
very,
everything.
very, very few.
That's
And
not
And
an
in
answer.
a lot of
as
cases,
a
there are none.
13 or 14-year-old boy or girl, you're already not comfortable in your own skin, no matter who you are.
Right.
And in order
Right,
to get, so you need to grow up a little bit before you make it such a life-changing decision about what you, I mean, basically
agree.
what you want, who you want to be when you grow up.
No, exactly my point.
Yep.
Like,
Okay,
you're making my
so-
point for me. This is exactly what I'm saying. Is that
But
like
you-
giving
so
them
everyone's
hormone
missing
blockers
this.
allows
One
children
second.
to make
Not
so,
everyone,
so they
sorry.
don't kill themselves in the process. Like that's the difference is that like sometimes what happens is what you let a trans child goes through the wrong puberty, they end up killing themselves. So instead of letting the kid kill themselves, what we do is we give them hormone blockers so they can wait till they're an adult or old enough to make the decision. This is all we're talking.
Dawn?
Well, there's a lot of psychological.
Issues.
There's a lot of
At that time,
psychological
you're going
things
through a
that
lot.
they have to deal with, and whether whether they're regular, they don't want to be transitioned or do. Everybody needs
The
that.
same thing happens to kids who don't hit their growth spurt until they're 19, right? Like these are changes that happen to like normal adults. We just like are prolonging it. So like there are kids out there who I knew a kid who was like fucking 5'3" until he hit fucking like 18 years old after he graduated. Literally, we went to the same college. The summer after he graduated, when he showed up at college, he sprouted like a foot and a half. He was like 6'3", right? Obviously, yeah, this kid like massively grew. And maybe that's like a foot and like 2 inches. I exaggerate a little bit, but
And
like,
maybe he
yeah,
was
that
on
kid probably
hormone
also had
blockers and you didn't know about it.
No, he wasn't on hormone blockers. He just went through a late puberty. It's just what happened, right? And like this kid probably had some mental stuff that happened to him too. What we're saying is, for specifically children who identify as trans, sometimes like if a short kid goes through school, generally there's a lot of stress. But when a trans person goes through the wrong puberty, they happen to have the propensity to want to kill themselves. So we want them not to do that. So we give them hormone blockers.
Okay, well, I'm looking at it says if you have a penis and you go through puberty blockers too early, you might not be, and you plan on having vaginal plastic surgery later on, you might want to forego taking puberty blockers because you may not have enough tissue. Right. So it seems like it's just not all reversible and everything just goes back to normal.
I like how you use the word too early, right? Because the doctors probably decides when it's the right time to go through puberty hormone blockers, right? So that they don't have these negative consequences.
But I thought it was
too early, meaning before puberty.
No, the parent, the kid, and the doctor to make the decision together. No one's saying that we're allowing kids to make this choice by themselves.
Let's go to Meat.
Okay, so I'm just gonna try and real quick address everything I feel it was wrong that was said. The idea that like calling it soft science like means something isn't really useful here. Calling medicine soft science isn't really useful. They produce results across averages that we want. That's sometimes doctors are wrong, which is why maybe sometimes there's a wrong usage of puberty blockers, just like any other medicine. All right, we know that happens in psychology and medicine and biological medicine sometimes. Doesn't mean they're not valid. Now, when we use puberty blockers, the whole point, generally speaking, as far as I'm aware, we're not going around doing huge transitional surgeries on 12-year-olds. Okay, generally speaking, these things, as far as I'm aware, they need to be they usually wait till they're 18, right? Or if that's ever not right. And what we do is we try to responsibly use these blockers, which we've been using for a long time for other things that have no known long-term effects. And they do have some short-term effects, but that's the point. They have no known long-term effects. They put off puberty just to give them some extra time to make the decision that you don't want them to make before it's too early. And I believe that that's pretty much everything, other than I just wanted to say to Brento, what you're misunderstanding is that puberty is like a set of physiological phenomenons that we define in very specific ways, hormone profiles, things that happen to the body. All right, so what you're talking about is not that there's no such thing as a female puberty happening to a male. What you're describing is the fact that a female puberty will affect a biological male differently than it might affect, in very certain ways, than it might affect a biological female. And that might sound confusing. Maybe the syntax is like weird, but
Sounds
that
intentionally
is
convoluted.
it's not. I would now, if you want to say it's intentionally convoluted, you can
Okay,
you can
well then
suspect
you're right. Maybe
the
not
intentions of the
intentionally,
sciences.
But I apologize. But
but
it sounds
that's
convoluted.
I'm just trying to
it
say.
sounds like so nebulous.
Yeah, sure. It might. It's but plenty of people understand it, and this is what the scientists use. So if we're going to talk about the science, if I'm going to be able to explain why it's rooted in the real world, these are the terms people use, and these are the terms I have to use, and these are the terms I have to explain. That's it. I'm done.
I got you.
Who's
You
next?
ha-
Go ahead, Dawn.
You have a 13. Every 13-year-old kid thinks they is like an alien in their own body. No, all these things are happening. Hormones are bouncing all over the place. They have no idea how to deal with them half the time. So it's like, number one, you need a good parental structure, which
Right.
a lot of kids don't have nowadays, which is very sad.
Seems like.
And I mean, I was a total geek when I was a kid. I was like, I was a tomboy. And then I kind of grew up, and it was like, I will still go out camping, and I'll still go out and can make a fire, and I can do, I can fish, and I can, I don't actually hunt.
Sure,
but
we're going with this. Where are you going with this?
But it's like, I mean, you can have the best of both worlds without having the hormones. You can, like...
So to be clear, when we're saying hormone blockers, we're not talking about... So what puberty is very, 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 very basically, it flushes your system with whatever hormones that your brain tells it to, right? So if you're a male, it usually gives you lots of testosterone. If you're a female, it gives you lots of estrogen. Right? And there's other hormones involved too, but like these are basic. What we do with hormone blockers is all we're doing, right? We're not talking about giving them hormones, we're talking about delaying that process. So we say, hey, we're going to take time and stop your body from flushing it with hormones so it doesn't go through the puberty process. And so that if later we want to flush your body with different hormones, or cause your body to flush it with the other hormone, right? You can make that decision. We're not giving children different hormones, right? We're just delaying.
How long do you wait? How long do you give this medication to these puberty blockers to these children?
We don't know. We're
I'm
not
a
medical
doctor. I don't
professionals.
know, but probably from sometime before puberty, like in their teens ish, until they're probably like 18, 17, 18, I would guess. So they're old enough to make the decision.
17,
the doctor,
18? So they don't go through
Maybe.
puberty until they're adults?
Maybe. I don't know.
Well,
I'm not
adults
doctor.
recognized by the state, technically, most
There's lots of people who don't go to puberty until they're
biologically, you
18.
would say that you're not an adult until you hit puberty, right? If we're just doing biologically.
Usually, people would say an adult after you are through with puberty. Like that's your maturation process.
Right.
Doesn't mean
Right.
fully and all. But yeah.
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 I mean, most people don't finish puberty until you're like 20 and 21. So, I mean, I guess
There
we're
you
sending
go.
all these
You
kids
think-
out there with
you don't think
guns,
there's
right?
something
Oh,
like
God,
you don't think
no.
there's something
Hey, they'll
like
make great
damaging
Marines.
about keeping a child from going through puberty until they're 18 years old?
I think
It
there's
seems
a
to
lot
be
of things
that the-
damaging in our world.
What a dumb answer!
We should,
What a dumb answer,
You
please,
go
dude.
from
We
a
don't
kid
do that
not
all the time.
having
That's just not what we were doing
any
left
of
and
the
right.
sorry,
Many
hormones.
things are
What were you gonna
harmful.
say, man?
So from what I understand, and if you want to look at research to prove me wrong, I believe there's very, very few negative side effects to delaying puberty in this way, unless you like start too early or you go way too long. But from like the time you're like 13 to 18 doesn't seem to be impactful. There could be some social consequences, but these are the same social consequences that could happen from kids being like small anyways, right? And it seems like I said, the alternative is that like trans people have like intense feelings of dysphoria and commit suicide, which is not what we want.
I think, I mean,
But
you
so
think
do
the
gay
solution to
people.
that
So
is to give them
do
hormones
gay
or
and
block their
lesbian
hormones?
people have those same feelings of they don't belong in any. They don't feel like they belong, and when people don't accept them for who they are, there's a lot of alcoholism. There's a lot of drug abuse, things like that. Whether it's a trans person or someone who figures out that they're gay.
Sure.
Yeah, that's why we gotta have
I
a
mean,
better
gay
society.
people and lesbians go through a lot of struggles too, but they are complete. Like, not to say that like lots of different people go through lots of different struggles with identity and with feeling like involved and accepted by society. But the ones that trans people go through and the ones that gay and lesbians go through are completely and utterly different, and like that doesn't have any bearing on this conversation.
Let's go to Nas.
So I was just saying, like, you keep bringing this up, like, if we don't block the hormones of kids who want to be trans, they're going to commit suicide. I think that's not a, like, it's just a claim that I don't think has much data behind it. Sure, most trans people have high suicide rates, but a lot of people in our society that suffer from mental illnesses tend to have a higher suicide rate.
All right, do you know the difference between
And
the suicide
I'm not
rate between
saying
a
that
depressed person and like a trans person? Because these are like really big, really big gap there. Okay.
People. There's so many more depressed people in our society diagnosed on record than there are trans, so it'd be tough to compare the two.
If only
not
there was
really.
like a way to break the percentages down so they're like correlative or something. Is there a mathematician here?
I think the bigger issue is
Wait,
not
what do you mean?
It's
Wait,
not
can you
yeah
elaborate?
Is that like a
dysphoria
ratio?
in itself, right? The bigger issue is society. Let's not forget that's the problem. That when mute yourself, we can hear you typing. When you hear when your family calls you a freak, calls you a sin, an abomination, right? When they beat you, when they reject you, when they toss you out and make you homeless, right? These things are not, these aren't the same struggles that depressed people have to deal with, generally speaking, correct? Right? This is something wholly outside of whatever medical condition that this transitioning person may or may not be experiencing, right? Like this is what society does to them. And then when you try to make your way out into the world, you get discriminated in the workplace. You get discriminated in the dating world. You get discriminated everywhere, right? And maybe that has something also to do with the suicide rate.
It's like society's fault that they're committing suicide.
Yes.
Everyone needs to fix
It would be a factor.
Yeah. Don't be terrible to them. Yeah.
people.
Don't abuse them emotionally and mentally and physically. And then society also murders them. Society murders them.
How
They
often
beat
does that?
them to
How often
death.
does that happen?
Right?
Does that happen very often? The
Yes,
murder rate
actually,
of
yeah. There's a
They
whole
get murdered.
list.
Why does it
There's
matter
been-
how often it happens?
No.
It happens to a lot of people.
It
compared to
does
how many
happen a
other
lot,
people and
and
everyone.
there's a whole list of individuals who die, like especially Black trans individuals are the ones being targeted, not just by the society at large, but by even law enforcement. There are laws that would criminalize them simply moving around, like walking while being trans, right? And then they would be like, "Oh, you must be a prostitute," just by walking outside. Just by walking outside, used to harass. All of this puts a mental strain on the individual, correct?
Sure, I can agree with that.
Okay.
But life
And if you're
in
going to tell people
general
not
puts
to do the thing that's going to
strain on
help them, you have to
people.
show the harm. Right?
When you're a
So
fully
show
grown
me the
adult
harm.
and
If you're going
your
to tell us that we
frontal
can't
lobe
do
is
this thing and we
developed,
can show you that it helps people, tell me
Go
what the
ahead.
harm is.
So are
I
we
think
going
the
to
harm
stop
is targeting
kids
children.
at 18 from joining the military? Do you want to weaken our country like that? Do you want us to not have an advantage because they're not fully formed and they can't make decisions on themselves because their noodle ain't cooked all the way? Is that what you want? You want
Well, they're
China
not
to win?
fully developed. So, I mean, war is not even that physical anymore. So let's be honest here.
All right, so we all agree, move the drinking age and the draft to 25,
Okay,
and then all the
brother.
problems are solved, right?
Hey, whoa. I'm not 25 yet. We can just postpone that because I really like to drink, okay? I got like 3
It'll take a
months,
few years to
okay?
get through legislation.
Nope.
We've been trying to do weed for a long
Nailing it
time.
down now. We're getting Congress in for a special sentence.
Well, I'm in
Move everything to
Massachusetts,
25,
so
and then we
it's
can do
all
whatever we
legal
want with
up here,
transgender
so-
people, and it's fine.
Yeah,
Got
it'd
it.
should
probably
just
be
do
better
like
to
a
do it at a
Congress
state level.
panel.
So
I don't
they-
know. Weed's legal here, so
Mint, did you
And
have
then I
anything to
stopped
say? I want
wanting
to
to
check
do
in
it
on you.
because it was illegal.
Sure, Mint, did you have anything to say?
I mean, not really. Like I said, the thing that I was just focused on, and I've been looking up a couple articles, just I've seen it repeatedly talking about the effects specifically on males who want to transition and go on puberty blockers before they enter puberty, it affecting their, erectile function and like tissue, how much their penis grows. So, but that's about it.
Yeah, that's kind of why we have a continuation of treatment to do our best to address those problems however we can.
What was the point with that? I'm sorry.
Well, no, he's
was
bringing up
people
a fair
kept
point.
people
There
kept
are
saying
issues.
that it's just reversible and you just go through puberty and it'll be like it never happened. But it seems
Right,
to be
so
not the
this is
case.
going to be me repeating something that my friend below me said, Top Dolphin, who has spitting a lot of facts tonight. But I just want to be clear because maybe you missed it. There are problems with every form of treatment that aren't normally a long-term problem of a treatment if you use that treatment irresponsibly or make errors in the application of that treatment. And that description is true of all sorts of treatments in psychology, in medicine, and anything where we treat people for a condition. So to try to say, so just to be clear, while that is technically the case, that isn't a special thing with the way we treat transgender. That's just something that's true of literally every category of treatment for human conditions.
But it's not saying if the treatment's done wrong. It's saying if you undergo this treatment.
I don't care whether what you're reading is making that distinction or not. That is the distinction.
There is a possibility. Sure, we could acknowledge that should your articles test out become valid. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right. What we're trying to do as best we can is treat these people so they don't have a lot of issues of suicidality because your dick ain't getting hard if you're fucking dead.
So...
Yep.
What?
Because it's not going to get hard either. So
he's talking about avoiding suicide because the person, wasn't allowed to transition.
I'm saying these situations where there's negative effects that you're talking about, these are instances of people fucking up. So we ignore those things.
The only thing
it's possible that there's
if you want to say that I'm wrong about that, because if I can show you studies that say there are no long-term irreversible effects of puberty blockers when we use them in these treatments, then for you to devalidate, and I can show you the studies if you want, I have one right here, but for you to devalidate those studies, you have to show me a study that doesn't just not say the thing that I'm saying specifically, because you can show me plenty of studies all over the world that don't say the specific thing I'm saying. You have to show me a study that contradicts what I'm saying.
Your study doesn't get to be the baseline. I'll show you.
I'll show you more. But still, can you show me a single one? Show me one that contradicts me.
I'll show you. There's plenty.
The one that you're describing does not contradict me.
What do you even know which one I'm describing? Yeah. I'm saying there's plenty of studies that specifically state that for male to female transitioning is an issue if you go through puberty blockers. If you don't go through puberty, if you go through puberty blockers before your puberty is supposed to have, by delaying it, you affect the genital development of the male. And that's specifically for male and female.
Not irreversibly. Does it say irreversibly? Does it say it is necessarily irreversible?
Yes.
It does. No, it doesn't. Show me that study. That's wrong. That's
you
wrong.
Read the fucking study. God damn it. Just don't say that.
Show me the study. I'm saying I've looked at the studies. I know it's wrong. I'm telling everyone in the audience I know it's wrong ahead of time. I don't know if they'll get back to me.
They wouldn't say it's an issue because we can reverse it.
Because I've looked into this. The study, I can show you a billion studies that disagree with me.
So there's a lot of studies out there that say, like, if you've already started to go through puberty, sometimes if your penis has gotten bigger or your boobs have started getting bigger, those things will shrink a little bit while you're on hormone blockers. But
no, that's not what y'all keep convoluting. It's saying if you take the puberty blockers before and you don't go through puberty, then you won't have that genital development as if you did.
You have a possibility, not
correct.
You won't.
Even when you get off of it?
Yes.
Even when you get off of it. Not every time.
Link the study or shut the fuck up.
Not always.
He put the study in the chat. I'm looking at it right now. And this is about.
That was the article. That was the article before. No, that's not the study. That was I posted that like 30 minutes ago.
Oh, okay.
Well, please
post
it.
About puberty blockers, though. This is about feminization hormone therapy. We could have a conversation about either or, but right now we're talking about kids and.
I just said this was from 30 minutes ago. So.
Can you link me the study, man? Can you put it in a chat of someone? Not the one that he's looking at right now. What's your name? Mint. What? Link it in Prime's Discord, in Prime's chat. I'm looking everywhere.
VC chat, yeah.
VC chat.
VC chat. Be great.
Ask a quick question to the stat
Please.
wizard.
Go ahead.
So, the guy with all the studies. What's the numbers, like off the top of your head? I don't need exact like numbers, statistics, but I just want to know off the top of your head. What's like the suicide rate post versus pre-op when it comes to transgenders? Or is that not important?
I don't know. I know it
I don't
goes.
know the numbers, but I know it's
study
slightly
you're talking
diminished.
about.
Post pre-op, I know it. So I don't know the exact numbers. I do know that post-op it goes down a little bit. But if you do post-op with support of at least one family member, it drops by like 15 or 20%. It like drops a lot because I believe it's around 30%, 30 to 35% for trans individuals, like normally. But post-op with support of one family member, it drops like dramatically.
Yeah. Are you talking
not
about
just
the
family,
Swedish?
also like a friend.
Yeah. Are you talking about the Swedish study over like 25 years? Is that the one that you're bringing up, Nazi?
Me? No, I was just asking a question to you guys. I was trying to
no,
some knowledge.
no. And again, like this is a spectrum of treatment. We're trying to do our best here with what we can. Like supportive family members, supportive friends are obviously the best, weapon we have against this. It's kind of like a societal issue. Like some people transition all the way,
or other types of like identity crisis.
Either one. I would imagine that it would probably be both.
Like when you feel alone and have no one to support you in your life, you tend to devolve into more suicidal tendencies. Am I right?
Possible. Yeah, I've been there. Yeah, sure.
But you can't even diagnose a child as a sociopath until they're in their late teens, early 20s. How can you
Because
diagnose
usually
somebody with
sociopath has different levels of triggers that you would kind of like, oh, this person is implementing this, and this. If they're like not able to interact in those ways to mark those parts off, then you can't really diagnose as a sociopath, right? Like there's a difference. Like as far as like how gender is identified, it usually comes in, I think, Top Dolphin, help me out here. Is it like 5 years old where you start seeing children making kind of like gender distinction as far as like their
it's
preferences
like somewhere between like 4 and 6. Yeah, I think you're right on that.
Where they decide that, and this isn't the end all be all, right? If a child likes to play with Barbies and they were born a male, that doesn't mean that they're trans. But what they typically do is they will start having these markers, and then working within that medical field with a doctor, they will start saying, okay, these are some of those signs, and then we're going to start doing some intensive or some type of therapy, and we're going to start going there. And then along that line, then we start talking about hormone blockers. Then along that line, we're going to start talking about introducing hormones after we've done, it's this nice little consistent, usual step ladder of treatment.
Why is treatment needed for something that's if what y'all say that gender is just a social construct and it's just how you decide to express yourself? Why should a male child who wants to identify as a girl, why should he or she they have to go through therapy? Yeah. They just chose to express themselves this way. Just let them live that way. Why should they have to go through any type of psychological therapy or evaluation to see if these thoughts are valid?
They don't necessarily have to, right?
Right. This is a fair question. And that's again why we're trying to address this as a form of treatment. Not everybody's going to need that. Not every trans person decides to get a mastectomy, right? To get their breasts removed, right? It depends on what's going to be effective for them. It does seem like if we were to from what I've seen, if we were to put somebody that was trans in nature, it seems like they will still have this problem. Some sections of trans people will still feel like my body is not matching what I feel like.
Ones with gender dysphoria.
Yeah, usually that's kind of like what gender dysphoria is, hence like why we have this kind of medical treatment that seems to be a little more intense. Whereas there are some people that are just like, yeah, I don't match what I think I should be. Kind of sucks. Oh, well, I'm going to go out about my day. Like, it would seem like Bruce Jenner or Kylie Jenner would kind of like introduce as like one of those people as far as, again, I'm not a fucking doctor, but you go through this entire period of life, and I don't think she started transitioning until about her 60s.
Yeah,
It seems
she's
like,
an adult. That's
yeah,
the difference. Then you have boys who decide they're gonna wear a dress and they're gonna go into a girl's bathroom and they're gonna rape a girl, and it's gonna get swept under the rug like it did in Virginia.
that's called a criminal, and I don't agree with criminals. That's just
Then
a
you
in
rapist.
have
that case, they
I
just
you
think
get.
that's
have
just a
the trans
rapist.
It's an
swimmer,
opportunist.
That's
you have
just
the
a
Thea,
rapist.
Yeah, but
you
he's
That's
have
also
just
an
a
opportunist.
rapist.
Thea,
Do you think
They
not
just
being
rape.
able to wear a
who
dress
is
is gonna
the
stop a
trans
rapist from
swimmer,
going
and
to a
he
women's
goes in the
bathroom?
in the ladies'
Okay,
locker rooms
okay.
with
Did that
his
kind
Let
of
me
gun
try
answer your
to.
hanging
question, Mint?
out.
Did that answer your question?
Well, yeah, I was going to try to help Don out about this point. I don't like going down the whole rape scenario, but do you think that all bathrooms should just be no gender or no sex, how you want to describe it, that everyone should be allowed in every bathroom? Like
It kind of
just
does
everywhere?
work. Yeah, it does kind of work out like that, actually. Like Europe does seem to have a fair amount of countries have genderless bathrooms. They're usually typically more like individual stalls. So if you want to dress your society like that, it won't just be like, it won't be all of us guys at the ballpark pissing into a trough. That seems kind of cool. I don't care. I ain't got nothing to hide. So if we want to stay like that, fine. But again, to address the societal issue, you would just install individual bathrooms.
What about like
There
a
you go.
locker
Or you can have
room?
like a third bathroom. There's another thing that some
Or,
places.
or yeah, you
Like
could.
a gym. What about like a
Oh.
gym or locker room?
Well, I was just trying to, because it seems like
Mhm.
in that women, it seems like if a guy was to go into a women's bathroom, they'd be like, "Oh no, guy in the bathroom, he's a threat," even if he didn't technically do anything, just the fact that he's
Yeah.
in there. But if
Sure.
a transgender woman goes into the bathroom,
Mhm.
and let's just like hypothetically, they haven't had their sex change yet, but
Yeah, sure.
they're not a threat anymore because they identify as a woman. Like
Well,
I
usually
don't understand that.
because we define it by the action, not by like what.
No,
the-
I'm not talking about them being allowed there. I'm talking about the threat perception that women have
Oh, that they
on
may have.
this person being in the bathroom.
Yeah, I could.
I mean,
I could
it's not
see
perfect.
that.
Yeah, I
But
mean, it
I'm
makes
pretty
sense
sure we
because
don't.
the-
We also don't want fucking 5'11", fucking 180-pound Jack, like trans man, right? Female to male trans person going into the women's bathroom either, right?
Yeah.
Why not? I don't think women would be threatened if there was
You
a.
don't think that would be if there's this beefed up Jack looking dude,
Oh,
right?
please, I got a
Who that
picture.
walks
Oh,
into the
what is his-
bathroom.
what
You
is his
think
name?
you think that like women aren't gonna feel threatened
Oh, are you talking about
just
Buck?
because they
Yeah.
have a vagina between their
Right.
legs? Like,
Yes, I think that.
what, do you think they like smell the pussy that walks in the door?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, that one's not threatening, dog. Like, no,
No, we all good
obviously.
here. We all good
If you have
here.
like some really like muscled up looking trans man who like is like fucking been bodybuilding in the gym getting his gains and he walks into the female bathroom, women are also gonna feel threatened. It's like it's not like they smell the woman on him and like, oh, that's not a real woman. That's not
go
a real
ahead and
man.
check-
We're all safe.
go
Like, that's
ahead
not
and
how
check
it
the
works,
VC
though.
chat.
Let's
Go
Much
ahead and check the
testosterone.
VC chat and tell me if you want that person on the right hand side to walk into a women's bathroom.
let's go to Ryan.
On the right hand side, looks like a
Yeah.
man.
Ryan.
Thank you very much.
Looks like a man.
It's a trans woman. We're saying if that guy walked into a women's bathroom, like women would
supposed
probably
to be
still be
safer.
scared.
Yep.
Most men are okay with anybody using a man's bathroom.
Also,
No,
a lot of
no.
women don't really care if dudes walk in the
That's
bathroom. I've
not-
worked in like fast food places and like clean stuff. Yeah, it's a little weird, but like most of them are like, oh yeah, whatever, right? It's
Brento,
like,
you got it
Yeah,
wrong.
because it's
Brento,
temporary though.
Brento, you got it wrong. They're saying that like a trans man, right, who was a person who was female bodied originally, would
No, I
like,
saw the picture.
walking into a woman's bathroom rather
Right.
than a male
Yeah.
bathroom.
Yeah.
And then
So what he's
do
saying
you
is
think-
the quote unquote man on the right is a trans man, right? They
Mhm.
were born a female, they transition. That person walked into a women's bathroom.
Mhm.
Women would probably feel the same way as if you walked into a women's bathroom. Actually,
Right.
I don't know. I can't really see, but this dude looks kind of
Savage.
jacked. Like they might be a little bit more scared.
So let's
Savage.
let's go to
They would just generally be shocked. But yeah.
yeah, okay, fair enough. All right, let's go to Ryan and Meat. And then we have a new person, so we'll try them too. So, Ryan.
And regarding that as well, another difference is that's important to note is that unless it's an emergency, like the person who identifies as male has no actual reason to be in the woman's bathroom in the first place, whilst the one that identifies as a woman has some level of justification at least. And I think it's a matter of like intent and signaled intent really makes a difference as well.
Right. Rapists rape. Trans women, trans men don't rape unless they're rapists.
Okay. Let's go to Meat and then a new person, Wine Mom.
Cool. I'll be real quick. Yeah, I just wanted to say that this study doesn't actually support the point at all. The only thing I could find that it even comments on, most of it isn't even about hormone blockers, but the part of it that is about hormone blockers, the only thing that actually says, it doesn't provide any evidence to this actually. The only thing that, other than a potential like celebrity, it offers a celebrity example. So let's just ignore that because that's an example of something gone wrong. So the only thing it actually says is that there is no evidence one way or the other. But the language that it uses is that there's no evidence that it's fully irreversible or not one way or the other. Now, if only there was a way for us to determine whether or not that language was intentionally biased, because that language doesn't necessarily mean one way or the other. Oh, wait, I opened a new tab, a resource and community for people concerned about same-sex attracted young people harmed by medical transition for gender. That's the entire website. So yeah, that study's bullshit. That's all. I'm
Oh,
done.
great.
Okay.
Not like this happens.
Wine Mom.
Yeah, Professor Meat's correct. A lot of those studies have been done on specifically like gender critical websites with self-selecting audiences, right? So that's like a big problem. I wanted to actually mention that the person that talked about like a trans person in a bathroom at school, completely debunked and completely totally fucking fake. The person wasn't trans, and the time that they did have it like
he
conversation
identified as a woman.
no,
He
no,
identified
they
as
did
a girl.
not. They literally didn't. I like that you're saying that. It's pretty adorable, but it's just not at all true. The person wore a skirt, and that's it. That's the whole evidence basically.
And
that they
decided
came
to be
up
a woman.
No, that's actually not true at all.
But
They hadn't even
nowadays,
had a
you
conversation.
have to
No,
watch
at the
out
time
for
of
your
the,
pronouns.
at the time of the sexual assault, that person had not had a conversation with the staff of the school in order to be put into those bathrooms. This
So
had
you
nothing
need
to do with that.
So in
Oh,
order
they
for
have
your
to
gender to be
discriminate.
valid, you have to discuss it with someone else.
As far as the societal impact and how you fit in a society, probably, yeah.
No,
Yeah, absolutely.
that's not how. It boggles my mind that when people want to argue against it, that they'll make these arguments. But if someone who was trying to like disprove transgender saying, "Oh no, your identity isn't valid," until society like confirms it, transgender people be like, "Oh no, that's ridiculous." But now because it doesn't work, you want to now make that argument to. It doesn't make any sense. Like,
Can you help me? Because I feel like that question didn't make any sense.
Yeah,
like
I'm following it. I didn't get it
if
either.
a person was trying to argue against gender identity and transgenderism and said your gender isn't valid until you confirm it with someone else in society, the transgender people would be like, no, that's ridiculous. But now because it doesn't work for your point,
No,
I don't
that's
think
literally
anyone's
incorrect though. Like trans people are not coming out and saying, I want to have all of the legal ramifications of changing my gender without going through the legal process of changing their gender. Okay?
no,
like
the legal process is secondary.
Oh, do you
in
mean like
that-
to what an individual values? Like as an
No,
individual?
to their identity, to what their gender actually is.
Well,
It's
yeah,
up to
I don't
them.
They value as
for
an
my
individual.
for my own values, I don't need the state to recognize me. But for me to then expect to have an F on my driver's license to get certain, I don't know, maybe healthcare in California, I would expect to have to go through those processes, those legal processes. Like that, no one's saying to not go through those.
So if
well,
you identify
some people
as if you were born male and identify as a woman, you can't use the woman's bathroom until you get an F on your driver's license.
Depending on what state.
Oh,
yes.
no, but what are you talking? No, because
You said to go
nobody's
get a driver's
nobody's.
license until you're 16, 17 years old,
No,
so that kind of defeats the purpose.
It's not an issue of requiring the state to validify my gender for me to act that way. It's a matter of that happening for legal processes involving the state, right? Like me going to the bathroom doesn't involve the state. It really
Well,
doesn't.
but you just said that this person couldn't use that bathroom because they hadn't gone to the administration yet.
I literally
and
did not.
confirmed.
I literally didn't say that. The issue with that
Then what
person
did you
is
say?
no. The reason that person was like in that bathroom had nothing to do with the fact that they had like gone through something with them being trans. The person was not trans. They've only been assumed as trans.
So when Dawn said this person was trans, you said no, they weren't, and she said yes,
Yeah.
they were, and then you
No.
said no, they hadn't
He's
talked
literally
to
going
the
through
administration yet.
No, it's literally misinformation. The person is not trans.
Okay.
The
So-
only evidence that has been presented that person is trans is basically that they wore a skirt.
It's his identification of what he claims he is, right? That's the only thing. He claimed to be trans.
No,
Apparently
can you
he didn't.
show me
He
somewhere where he
identified
claimed to be
as a
trans?
He
woman.
never
Show it
identified
to
as
me.
trans.
He
Like,
presented himself as someone who would go to the women's restroom.
It's possible there's a very small number of people that are lying about being trans because generally it's a shitty thing to be trans in our
Oh
society.
my God!
all right?
Criminals
So-
would lie about things. They take
But
advantage
also-
of
Yeah,
them.
it's
I know,
possible
my
that some
God,
people, there is
what?
always going to be some percentage of people that are going to warp this shitty thing in society that no one actually wants to be, turn it into some kind of complex into some way, and just treat it in some kind of weird way. There's weirdos across every aspect of society. That doesn't mean it's representative of trans people. Why would someone, you have to demonstrate that that's happening if you're going to make that claim and tell us to do something about it. There's no proof that that's happening.
What
This
about
guy has
women
exactly
prisons?
made the right point. All we know is that guy wore a skirt. If that's the only
about
evidence,
the,
then we don't know that you're
Can I
trans.
ask
Yeah,
another
it's
question?
not like there's like a fucking guard at the fucking bathroom when you're in school. Like, hey, can I see the F?
Yeah,
on
with a
your
trans test.
student ID.
Yeah.
Make sure you're really female. No, the dude didn't talk to anybody before he went in the bathroom. He slid a skirt on, walked in,
And sexually
It's-
assaulted somebody.
sexually
correct?
assaulted
Oh,
somebody.
so-
Yeah.
okay, look,
Got transferred to another school and did it again.
Yeah,
It sounds like they should
pretty
have put him in
shitty.
jail the first time.
Yeah,
Right.
sounds
That
awful. We
misinformation.
should deal with that guy or person. Or sorry, I didn't hear the beginning.
What'd you want to say, white mom or wine mom?
Sorry. I was looking at the very first assault happened before there was even a trans like policy at that school. I'm trying to remember the second one.
Oh,
I've
you
seen
keep
this all
doing
debunked
You keep
before.
going. You keep saying you don't need the state approval, and then 2 seconds later, you jump to something the state hasn't done yet to prove why this person's.
We are trying to like
identity wasn't
blame us,
valid.
but you're trying to blame a school policy for this happening, which would mean that would have to involve the state.
So what are some of these perks that the
So-
state will give somebody? If
Also,
it
it
were to
happened
be-
before the school policy, so you can't blame
Yeah.
it on the
Why are
policy.
they
But you just said
What are
that
some of
doesn't
these-
matter.
Why is
That
this
was
not
no,
a
no,
civil
no,
rights
no, no, no.
issue? Why
They're
are
making a
they-
distinction
government
between their identity, right? Saying
Sure.
their identity doesn't need the state to be validated, but like in terms of a school's like operation, right? If
Sure.
there's a and let's say there was a policy, right, that says, well, if you are trans, then you can use the girls' bathroom, right? And then that was to blame for the assault because this person got permission for that. Not that they were validated, but they got permission to use the girls' bathroom for that. Then that's where the issue would land. Would be in that administrative decision, right? So you are relating the assault to an administrative decision, and then Wine Mom, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I got all this incorrect, let me know. Then Wine Mom is separating that, right? Whether that role exists or not, is separating that from them as an actual person being validated, right? They don't need the state to be validated as a woman, right? Or whatever you like to identify as. Did I get any of that wrong, Wine Mom?
I seemed pretty much okay. I mean, the big issues being the policy wasn't in place when the assault took place. The person has not really been identified as trans as through any other way of being as having worn a skirt. It's just right-wing fear mongering as much as we can tell. And yeah, that's it basically.
Let's go to Nasty and then Ryan.
So I just wanted to clarify, and I'm asking you guys, like I'm trying to get knowledge here. So what are some of these like perks when it comes to like officially being recognized by the government? Like what difference does it make to you as a person, whether it be socially or politically, that to have a F instead of an M on your driver's license? You know what I'm saying? Like what difference
Yeah.
does that really make, and how does that really make a difference? And part two to that question, how do you feel about men being incarcerated in women prisons because they identify as women when they're men? Do you think they're just
biologically?
So
they
those
decide
are
to be
two
trans
really
and get
those
caught?
are two
Like,
really different things. If you don't mind, I'd like to answer the first one really quickly, which is it happens every day, right? How often do you have to show your ID? I want to go to a bar. I want to go to a club. I'm out with a date. Who knows? There are plenty of times where you have to show your ID, and when you show that to somebody, if it has the M on it, they will notice. I don't know if you've worked security. I have. You're gonna notice it. That's just one tiny little thing. But
what difference does it make? They're looking at your age. They're looking at the date you were born, which is not
They're
something
also
you can change.
making sure the person matches with the ID.
Yeah, you're literally outing yourself. They might say,
Photo.
well, this isn't, this says you're a dude, all sorts of things.
But
You
but
just tell
see,
them you're
this is
trans.
this is where like
They
the
doubt
whole like
that.
like gender and sex being different argument kind of seems to fail, because that the on your license it doesn't say woman or man, it says male or female. So even if you transition, you're still a male, right?
But that's just how the government has chosen to
Yeah.
do that. We haven't had our understanding of these things as a society, like has progressed after we put in place like the infrastructure for our driver's license. So yes, it says male or female rather than man or woman, but that doesn't inherently mean anything, right? We could, if
It
you wanted to go.
does.
No,
No,
hold
it
on. No, it doesn't.
No, but it doesn't, because in states like California, non-binary is a thing that you can have on a driver's license, which in this analogy of your own doesn't exist as a sex. So what the fuck would it be?
Yeah, exactly.
But I do
Yeah,
feel
it's
like
just
you
the
make
whole
a fair,
point.
no, it
I do
does.
think
It's
you
not
make
the
a
whole
fair
point. Hold on.
question.
Hold on. It's not the whole point. Like, just because it has M or F there doesn't mean that as a society that we can't advance past that point. Say, okay, what we're actually referring to is man or woman, right? Like it's just literally not worth the effort to change all of our systems, right? To change the F to a W, right? Like it's like not worth doing that when that works fine as it is now, right? You can, unless I guess I'll just
I
say
don't
that,
think that's
Yeah,
entirely
and
true.
the F could mean feminine, right? Like
feminine, yeah, right? Masculine and feminine.
Masculine and
Now y'all
Yeah,
being
I'm not saying it
ridiculous.
doesn't, but it
Yeah.
very well could.
It
Right?
means it.
Really?
Come on.
But
Like
it's a pretty ridiculous point. Like, why the fuck
No.
would it
what
matter?
difference does it make that like whatever it's
No
it's-
shit.
What difference does it matter if we're having this conversation if I use male instead of man?
no,
It
no,
makes a big difference because we're talking about gender in one sense and we're talking about sex in the other sense. But when it says sex on your driver's license and you allow a trans person to change the sex on their driver's license, now it
But-
doesn't matter.
but it's-
Now
Then
it's
I have
not
then I have a
big deal.
question for you. What in California I can have non-binary as my sex? What does that mean?
That's the whole point that I'm making. It
What
doesn't
does
make
that
any
mean?
sense.
Yeah,
that mean?
it doesn't matter. Hold on.
Fine.
We can change
All
it
right,
to
so you
gender
think
if
they
it
should
makes
ju-
you feel better. Okay, Mint, please lead the way, right? And the movement to change it from sex, like the category from sex to gender. Please lead that movement. Do that.
He's
so
on
it
our
makes
side, he
sense in
just
your
doesn't know
brain.
it.
Yeah, I guess yeah.
Fucking
I-
based.
I didn't realize that. That's the point you were trying to make. You just want
Yeah.
it all to
Yeah.
make sense for you. So please
Consistent.
lead the movement, right? So that we're all talking about the same fucking thing, right? The rest of us actually don't
He
give
just
a
has
shit,
a problem
right?
with driver's
As-
licenses.
No, because y'all like at the beginning of this conversation, you made make sure throughout this conversation when you're talking about male or female, make sure you make a distinction because if you mix those two up, you'll just mess up your whole.
Yeah, so
argument.
you're getting
Because
mad at
we're
the driver's
talking-
license for
Wait,
failing the
that's because
distinction.
we're having-
The driver's
we're
license is fucked up.
specifically
because we're
having a
talking
conversation
about
about gender,
we're
right?
talking about gender theory, right? Which is different from like the administrative like paperwork, right? Like we would here all of us here would love. I'm sure Wine Mom here wouldn't mind. I'm sure Dustin, Professor Meat, Top Dolphin wouldn't mind that if the field changed from sex to gender on your fucking driver's license, that would be great. That would actually be helpful. Sure, great. Like let's do that. But like that's like not a fight worth fighting for just administrative paperwork, right? Just that. Like it'd be great if it actually did match up, but it's not a thing that people are fighting for.
So
'cause
if it's not a fight worth fighting for, then why was the fight done to be able to put non-binary there? If it's
I
not a
think
fight
if
worth
they-
fighting
if-
for, like
put
No, you're
sex
just
on the
naming the
driver's license, you
field.
should be
You're
like,
naming
okay,
the
yeah.
field. Holy shit! Like it's like so dishonest. This is the dumbest thing. I'm
It's
sorry.
just-
Hold on.
I don't think
a
it's
sign of,
dishonest. I think he literally doesn't understand.
Well, no,
I
don't.
had
not
I
dishonest.
have a really one of my best friends when we were growing up. She used to say that she was a boy. Okay, when she was 6, 7 years old, she's a lesbian. But when she was 6, 7 years old, she was always like, "I'm a boy. I'm not a girl." So they should have put her on hormone blockers back
No,
when
no,
she was like,
we already
So-
addressed this on. We already addressed this. Moving past this, we already addressed this like multiple times. Moving on.
she
Wait.
That's-
she
that's-
figured
Can
it
we
out
can really?
after a
Because I don't think
while
we
that
actually
what
have.
she
So I
really
think the
was-
difference is all right. So grandma, okay. I think the difference is that it's not that every child who ever
Did
says
you
that
say
I might
grandma?
be maybe I did, okay. It's not that every child who ever says, it's like a guy and says, I think I'm a girl. That's a girl thing. It's usually children who seem to be going through like severe mental shit, right? Or in their identity, like having identity crisis. Not like a boy who one day shows up and is like, oh, I'm a girl, or a girl who says I'm a boy, right? It's usually someone who is like seems to be having symptoms of like mental health issues who needs to be put on puberty blockers, right? And there's the decision that not only a parent and a child should make but also with a doctor, right? Who can tell if this is like, hey, maybe this is just a phase of like trying out different they call it trying out hats. It's the child psychology thing on it. Maybe they're trying out hats, or maybe they're actually experiencing having like a transgender experience, and we should consider putting them on puberty blockers when they get to the age of like 13 or 14.
Okay. Let's. We got a few other people who want to join in, right? And raise your hands because I already forgot who you are. Ryan, did you get a chance to go?
The point that I was going to make was on the conversation that we passed around 10 to 15 minutes ago, unfortunately.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes, go ahead.
I just want to go back to a point I brought up. The women prisons where men are being incarcerated with women because they identify as transgender women. I want to hear you guys' take on that, and if that's okay. At the
first time,
policy
I'm going to take issue with the framing that you use, right? Because you're saying men who identify as transgender women, so you're already loading that, right?
Guys who like using their dick. Guys who want to use.
Sorry,
their
what?
Dick. Guys who want to use their
okay.
dick.
I mean, that seems really sexist to me. I don't know if that seems sexist to anybody else.
Against who?
Seems
Men?
pretty fucking
Guys?
stupid.
Yeah, like.
Okay, do you just address?
I take zero offense.
Do you want to do it, or I
Back to
can
the
do
prisons. I take zero offense.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, you know what? I don't have an exact answer. We're still figuring out the good answers for these things when it comes to sports and when it comes to prison. I've heard a lot of productive conversations that have a lot of interesting food for thought. Maybe if I can go find exactly what I'm looking for, maybe I could show some of those to you. But I don't think you're going to find a satisfactory on this panel for those questions. But that doesn't mean that anything else that we have said here is wrong. It just means that it's worth looking into and it's worth trying to figure it out. That's all.
Another thing is, specifically with transgender people in prisons, a transgender person in a prison is like 10 times more likely to be assaulted than like a non-transgender. So it's not like all these transgender people are going to prisons and assaulting people. They're going to prisons and getting assaulted. So I don't know if there's necessarily like a ton of like a ton of men pretending to be trans, like, oh, I'm trans, so they can go into female prisons and fuck women, right? It seems like going to female prisons and then getting like,
assaulted by male guards,
inappropriate
or by other female
assaulted by
prisoners.
women.
Yeah,
but
like
it's a small
go ahead.
percentage. It's not that. It's not even like a big
So-
enough percentage to worry about. Right.
So yeah, what do we do about that small percentage? If it became like a large problem, like I don't know what the solution is. Maybe people who are violent need to be kept in separate areas or something like that. I don't
What
know.
percentage, like compared to people who are born one gender and want to switch, like what's the percentage of that
that's
versus
a very small
percentage
number.
of like how, like what's the small, like what defines a
Buyer's
small
remorse.
percentage?
They did it when they were a kid, too young to make that decision as an adult, and they end up not being happy with what they became.
That's a very small percentage.
Oh, so that's a percentage we're gonna ignore too, right? That's a too small of a percentage to even think about, right?
Well, it
Okay, so-
seems like
What's
it
the
has
threshold of
nothing to
small
do with
percentages?
ignoring
What's
it.
the
It has
threshold of small
everything to do
percentages?
with
I'm
it
confused.
seems like
I mean,
as of
wouldn't
right
but
now in
wouldn't
the
that
medical
like
field,
Hold on,
it's already
Dustin,
being
go.
Vibrate?
addressed.
Sorry, Don. Let Dustin go, please, Dustin.
It
sorry.
what I'm saying is, as far as in regards to children that decide to detransition, it seems like it's not worth bringing up in the conversation because it's a percentage that is so small that the medical field is really good at addressing this problem. Is it a problem? Yeah, of course. If you're the individual and you think you need to transition and then you no longer need to transition, it will become a problem for you if you have side effects from your transition. That's possible.
What kind of side effects are those?
Well, it kind of depends on how far along you are in your transition. I've never
Who it was,
transitioned
what-
before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who it
but
was, what the cross-sex
There are
hormones
other
were,
medical
all
things
of
that
that.
can aid people that we
Yeah,
let them make
right.
decisions
Yeah.
on, and they weigh the risks once they're in adulthood, 18 years old, start to weigh the actual risks. Puberty
I-
blockers, you weigh the risk too, just like other medications. But then,
Right.
when it comes to
Like-
surgery, we pass on that responsibility to an adult. Just like if you're getting your tubes tied, I think. Can you reverse that or not? I don't know. I'm not a doctor. But there are things
That's
like
actually
this
heavily
where they're not always
state
reversible. We
Yeah,
we
it's
make
also really
decisions.
kept, unfortunately.
Yeah,
we make
fair
sure,
enough.
but that's another thing, right? We if we're trying to decide where we're trying to go, we make these decisions in a cost-benefit analysis, and they're helping people on average. And if you have to make the decision for yourself whether or not you're willing to risk the tiny chance that you have somehow, in collaboration with all of these professionals and friends and family and et cetera, and your experiences, come to the wrong conclusion as an adult, you have to weigh that tiny, tiny, tiny risk against everything else.
There's
Which is what?
I think one of the issues for me at least is that people seem to think this is like a new thing that's happening with kids when the doctors that have been dealing with how we got the puberty blockers and the way the healthcare system deals with these kids, this has been going on for 25 plus years, right? Like and this is before anything could be argued as some sort of political movement. These are just doctors that are doing the best things for their kids with the experience that they have gained by doing this for quite a long time. I'll link something in the chat regarding one particular endocrinologist who has been doing this for like 20 years.
All right,
Friggin'
guys. Thank you for letting me on the panel.
Thanks for being here, Don. Have a great night.
Have a
Bye,
good
Dawn.
night.
Too.
Good talking to you.
I gotta get some sleep. So you have a good night, guys.
Have a good one. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Grandma.
Good night.
Mhm.
Not a grandma.
Savage.
Grandmas don't
Soon.
have purple hair.
Soon.
We have a new person, Glitch. Hello, hi. Do you have anything you like to say?
Hello. I'm just listening to seeing what y'all are debating.
You don't know?
Oh,
Debating
well, I
whether-
came in to debate Dave Chappelle, but we were so
Yeah.
far gone from that.
We're
when I
debating
got
whether
here.
or not people with King Kong statues should be
Mhm.
here or not.
Right, so
Well,
where
I
do we
mean,
land on the whole Dave Chappelle thing? Based, not based?
We
Like,
haven't.
The
We never
lighting
even
is pretty
touched
good,
it.
though.
The moment we
Yeah, it is
started
very
talking, it immediately devolved into this. And I actually want to talk about Dave Chappelle. I'm like,
I did like half
It feels
an
like
hour of
this is the
music.
heart of the controversy with Dave Chappelle. Like this is the whole reason he's controversial
Is it
at
though?
all.
Well,
I think
from
he
my
just can't
understanding,
talk
he also
about-
seems
Go
to
ahead.
have issues with the gay and lesbian community. Or is that?
Does he though?
yeah.
Does
And,
he?
and,
I don't
and the point,
necessarily
and the,
feel like
no,
that.
the
but I
problem
know
is
it's
he's,
true.
he's
I may not know
punching
enough.
down to other communities.
Right.
We
It's-
gotta define issues. But he makes jokes.
Wait,
I think
has everyone
becomes
here
really-
listened to the special where he talked about
I
the
have.
transition?
Is
I
that
listened
the
to a
one
lot of
where
them, yes.
He's with. This is the one where he ends with Daphne. Excuse me.
The story about
Dorman?
his friend. Yeah.
Yeah.
His
What is
man's friend, yeah.
Daphne.
Daphne. Thank you.
Like
Daphne
Scooby-Doo.
Dorman. Yeah. Is that
Mhm.
the one?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
believe
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
That's
I
the
think
newest one.
it's very difficult to like gauge somebody's hatred for a specific community as far as like actions that they do and everything like that on top of like having a certain amount of friends. And it does seem like that for her to be involved with the special at the level of comedy or at the amateur level of comedy that she was doing was a very large step as far as like highlighting trans comedians in the general respect. You can actually go on and type her in. She has a YouTube channel that's still up. You can go on and you can see some of her stand-up. So I don't know. I just don't think that you get like a complete pass for platforming either gay or trans people, right? Gay, trans, any of the community. But I think it is important if we're going to start making accusations of like what was their goal or what they were doing, to also kind of remember that this isn't. It doesn't seem like he's a complete bigot that doesn't want these people to exist in the world.
For what it's worth, coming from this as a trans person, I don't think he actually strikes me as someone that is like a bigot. It feels like a reaction a lot to me. That's not to 100% excuse the things that he said, but he has this fixation that I feel, well, it seems kind of defensive. And so he just feels this need to keep bringing it up and bringing it up and bringing it up. Mm-hmm. Maybe if it wasn't brought up in the first time, then it wouldn't have been brought up again and again and again.
Yeah, right.
You know, yeah. I don't know that I feel like he's the most horrible, hateful transphobe that I've ever seen. I don't think he even probably considers himself that.
Right.
Yeah. But I think you could probably reach him. I mean, somebody could probably.
Right. Yeah.
Obviously, his friend did.
It kind of seems like. Go ahead, Dolphin. It's fine.
I was gonna say, I think it's like not to like pretend like I know Dave Chapelle, and I met him once actually. That was cool when I went to his show. But I mean, from his comedy, it seems like the impression he's trying to give off is that he thinks that the idea, like, and maybe this is transphobic, right? But he thinks that the predicament that trans people in is kind of funny, and he wants to make jokes about it. And when he makes jokes about it, a lot of people get really, really angry at him. I personally think that Dave Chapelle has shown, and through some of his jokes and some of the techniques he's used, has shown that he understands like the trans predicament, not to an extremely like leftist Twitch perspective, but better than like 99% of people in like common parlance. And like I think that like I personally think that you can make jokes about anything if they're funny enough, and I thought he was funny. So, but yeah. I think I also, another thing I want to say is I think that
I don't think they were funny, but
I think his humor, right? Something that I think that did happen is he has, except for there's a little era where he didn't do it as much, but he generally has a pretty edgy brand of humor. He's usually on like the edgier side of things. And I think when he started talking about transgender people, a lot of people heard about that who weren't really into edgy comedy, who went over there and were like, "Oh wait, this ain't funny. I feel offended," right? And these weren't the people that his content was intended for.
Yeah, because I think like just listening, like if you just watch like the 4 Dave Chappelle Netflix specials, like he just talks, he makes fun of like everybody, and he makes fun of experiences that he has in his life. And I haven't, the jokes that I heard him make about trans people, I didn't see them being any worse, like in magnitude or like, offensive than jokes that he's made about any other like object, any other thing or thing that he's talked about. Like it's consistent. He makes those type of jokes about no matter what he's joking about.
But if I take that as true, which is fine, I'm fine. I agree with that. Sure. If for like 3 specials in a row he kept making fun of that same group of people, would that give you an impression of somebody?
I mean, he had a character called Tyra Biggums who pretended to be a black crack addict for like years and years and years, and like you guys got 3 specials. Like, I'm sorry, you guys aren't on our level yet. Like, no, but to be serious, like, I mean,
but isn't that him? If that's Dave Chappelle talking about like black experience as a black person, that's a little bit different than him talking about like LGBT people, right?
I mean,
he's a comedian
too,
Well, here, let me try and like bridge the gap.
And he's made fun of women, right? Like it's not just like maybe LGBT people are special, but there are lots of other like groups in society who are oppressed who he's also made fun of, right? Like it's not a thing that's like particular here.
I take a look at it as far as like an issue of like representation, and when I go back and think about being younger, I actually try and remember just how ahead of their time South Park was as far as like the transition of Mr. Garrison to Mrs. Garrison and how actually good of a positive influence Mrs. Garrison was as far as like a representation of the trans community.
Are you
That was
serious?
one of the that
What?
was
I
like
think
one
that
of the
ended well.
first.
What?
That didn't end well, did it?
I was in high school. What?
Okay,
Yeah, that
I'm
was-
I'm laughing, but I
He had
kind
to
of
grow
agree
his
with
dick
him
on a
in like
mouse.
a different way. But
Well, hey, feel free to fill me in, but she was always, I mean, highly hypersexual and everything like that. There are plenty of like, there are plenty of reasons
kidding
why.
me?
But as far as like in that show, she was always guiding to the children as far as like how they interacted with her and everything like that. And
Mr.
then
Garrison is a monster.
Understand
this is
South
a
Park is
character.
satire.
right,
It's a
that
satirical. It's
Right.
a satire. It's not.
It's not satire. That's
And
not.
I-
what?
That's
Okay,
South Park
I
in
can't
general.
take that apart.
Please take it.
Comedy.
Please take it. Take the first crack at this because this is just a terrible take.
Man,
Fuck you.
honestly,
I
I
love South
haven't.
Park.
It has been such a long time since I've
Right.
watched South Park that really all I can say is I would implore you to ask your trans friends, especially your trans femme friends,
Right.
what their general impression of Mrs. Garrison is.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to have the same impression. that you
Yeah,
have.
Yeah,
yeah.
and-
F
well,
that.
this was-
No, yeah. Then I'll do it. Because I remember that, and that was
Sure.
terrible. That was clearly saying that this person is not actually a woman, right? They're pretending.
Yeah.
They're going through all the motions, right? And that their wants and desires are fucking ridiculous. That's exactly what that was.
That
Definitely
was the
not what I
episode,
took
yeah.
from that, and I don't understand.
Oh,
Like,
Because
wow.
Kyle tried to be black, and his dad tried to be a dolphin. And
I'm
Mr.
not
Garrison
talking
became a
about
woman.
one episode. I'm talking.
Well,
Yeah,
about
I know.
She
I
was-
remember.
she was-
and it was
She was
fucking
transitioned for several seasons,
and it was
at that
fucking
ti-
terrible, dude. Like this was.
okay, I think
Like,
what
oh, hold on, no, that was like I remember watching that, right? And where was I in my thinking on this? I don't think I was very far along, right? And I remember like, oh yeah, this is something to be ridiculed, right? Like thinking that this person wants to be a woman, right? That's what that was the entire message. Like, go back and watch those episodes and how Mr. Garrison is actually presented to the audience, right? Like presented as a person doing something ridiculous, not like a trans person doing interesting things, like funny things, right? They're funny because their transness is obviously irrational.
Yeah, definitely not what I kind of took from that, especially
Wow.
from
Good work,
the
sis male,
the
on this
highlight.
one. Holy
Yeah,
shit.
no
I'm
shit.
sorry,
Especially from like the highlight of how outlandish the show was, and the fact of the matter was, like all of those characters were to that point. Like that was one of the first trans characters that I ever thought of, or I ever certainly that I think ever interacted with media at the time, and I thought she was a very well fleshed out character that did a lot of kind of
Oh
like
no! Oh no!
good. Yeah, I don't
okay,
think.
so
I'm not judging you. It's just really interesting to
I
me.
am judging you.
I've
Right.
never
Well,
heard that
and this-
take.
And this becomes like another thing too, as far as like how trans comedy is. Like ContraPoints does a video where she's talking about like it doesn't seem like the community as a whole is very interactive with how different things are. And I would encourage everybody that if you want to learn about trans issues or several others, like go and watch ContraPoints content, because she does a massive amount of like great communication, especially for young males. So it seems like you need to start figuring out like who are the people that you want to emulate in your society and kind of like represent you, and how your comedic humor is gonna be. And it feels like the trans community doesn't seem to have quite a grasp on like what we can as an in-group joke about, and then in turn like what we allow the out groups to joke about.
Yeah,
yeah,
let's-
I
really-
think
they'll
with
wait,
people.
figure out in the
Prime-
next meeting. Let's go to Mint.
Yeah, I think this is kind of like the same along the lines what Dave Chappelle's doing. Like you have to take in context how outlandish and how like the type of jokes that South Park made about everything else. Like y'all know how I am like about COVID restrictions. Like South Park did 2 COVID movies. They're hilarious, but they make fun of both sides. Like they make fun of people who are pro-vaccination. They make fun of people who are anti-vax. Like, but they're doing it because they're including everyone. So when they include everyone, they make fun of everyone. So when Dave Chappelle is talking about his life and his experiences, he's making fun of trans people. He's including them in his comedy, just like anything else that he includes.
Oh, I feel so privileged. I'm so happy that he's doing that. I feel included.
Yeah, so like being made fun of your identity, right, and saying that your identity is ridiculous.
But they make fun of everyone's identity.
No, saying that's not the. It doesn't matter, right? That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that like these was it I forget the names of the two creators, right? I did these two cis white male, right? They make fun of everybody. And you know what? Not everyone actually appreciates being made fun of one or the other, right? But like to compare that to fucking idiot anti-maskers, right, and anti-vaxxers, right? To say that, oh, these are the same, right? These are making fun of one group and now they're making fun of the other group. No, like you can decide not to be a moron anti-vaxxer, and you but like being trans is that's your identity, and you have a society, right? A society that says that you are less than. To say that, oh well, they hit everyone, so it's okay. No, it doesn't necessarily make it okay. It doesn't make it okay.
I would say
it also matters how you hit people. It matters how you do it, though, right? Like the content matters. Like when Dave Chappelle makes his jokes, it's like dehumanizing to trans people. But there are a lot of things about trans existence that are extremely funny that you can do at the expense of trans people without making them necessarily be dehumanized, right? Anybody that's been around trans people knows that like trans women specifically have a big thing for pickles. Right, it's just a function of it's a weird one. I know a lot of y'all probably don't know.
This is a shit take, right? These are shit take.
No, this is for real. This is for real. No, the pickles thing is for real. It's
maybe
what spironolactone is one of those things that makes you crave salt, and so there's like this big inside thing about trans women really liking pickles. Trust me, ask a trans woman; it's an inside joke. But you could make that joke, right? There are plenty of jokes to make that don't have to be done at the expense of a community. They can be a joke that is laughing with that community. And these jokes that Dave Chappelle was doing don't do that. That's sort of the issue.
So my litmus test would be all of Dave Chappelle other jokes. Does he also dehumanize other people when he makes other jokes? And he does. So I'm saying it's not like he's treating them worse than what his baseline is. I make fun of everyone. So if you want to just have a problem with Dave Chappelle for making fun of anyone and dehumanizing anyone, I'm on board with you, because he dehumanizes everyone in his comedy. Just like I would say South Park, like they make fun of everybody's characteristics, people from all different walks of life. So if you just have a problem with South Park and you say, hey, South Park should be canceled because they dehumanize all types of people, cool, fine. But don't say, oh, they included these particular group of people and they made fun of them, now we need to cancel it. Like that just seems ridiculous.
South Park makes fun of Asian people. Are Asian people being attacked by their very government in our society, having legislation saying that and people walking around saying Asian kids aren't real, right? Jerking us off. Asian kids aren't real. No, that's not a thing that happens, right? We don't have people in their platforms in their governmental platforms attacking the Asian community, right? Like so to say that these things are the same.
Trump is gone now.
To say that these things are the same as if everyone's starting on this equal platform, and from there we can just make fun of them, right? And all the little intricacies about their lives.
Well,
right? That's not the same.
Hasn't South Park made fun of? Hasn't South Park made fun of?
You guys look at all the like negative jokes, but what about all the things he said?
Let Mint had one thing to say, so Mint, please.
So South Park has made fun of black people and police shootings. Should they not have done that? Like, is that going too far? South Park has made fun of Jews in the Holocaust. They do all, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, the level of disrespect that you're saying that they're doing to this one group of people, if they only did that to that one group of people, I would understand. But they do this. They touch.
I don't
subjects
like Trump
all the time.
Aren't we talking about Dave Chappelle?
Yeah,
it does.
Talking about both.
Well,
Dave Chappelle's done the same thing.
Into South Park for whatever fucking
I
reason.
know, but I'm not familiar with South Park.
I do have a question. Though.
Hold on. I didn't answer this question, so I'm going to try to answer this question. Right? I haven't seen the black cop shooting thing. I haven't watched a South Park in a long time. But I'm going to guess like they didn't invalidate being black, right? The identity of being black, right? They acknowledge that black people were a thing, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, great, right? And that's not ridiculous to be black.
I guess I don't really understand.
Yeah, I don't understand either. Why would you invalidate being trans? But they did that, so I don't.
What
doesn't Dave Chapelle acknowledge specifically that trans people are a thing, though?
We're talking about
Does
South
it
Park right now.
include-
I don't know.
Subject Dave Chapelle,
I mean,
so I'm confused.
so-
This is the
Dave Chappelle,
problem.
yeah,
is that like
literally like being like
if
one of
we-
the biggest figures in comedy, going on stage and saying things like literally saying like trans women are women and like, hey, you guys should all respect your trans people. He well, some people might disagree with this, but this is absolutely a true statement. He uses the correct pronouns for people. I think all but once, which is specifically used for comedic effect. But yeah, like having a figure like do this on mainstream stage, like maybe here, unless it's Twitch, where we all know everything. Like this is like, oh yeah, this is just the baseline. But like as the biggest figure in comedy, going out like in front of like all of the fucking like normies who barely even know what trans people are. Like I think like the impact that this has is probably going to be more like largely positive than negative.
That's the question I'm trying to get at. Like how we as a society decide to interact and introduce people into our society that are a minority. And it seems like we can look at movies like Dress to Kill, if you know what that fucking movie is, or like the introduction
Ace Ventura.
Ace Ventura. It does seem like we've done a complete shit job as far as like there's a lot of stigma between like trans people are incredibly violent and murders and everything like that. It seems like we are getting significantly better at doing this. And I feel like that is important. Now, how Dave Chapelle ends up doing it is very crass. Kind of his point, but I don't think it excuses the repetitiveness in the way that you do it. Although on an individual level, I feel like he feels, since he is platforming the trans community as far as like bringing them on stage to do their to do comedy with him, it feels like he thinks in that individual level, if I'm doing this, then I am doing good. Fuck everybody else. This is great material.
No, I think his point is just, hey, these are the experiences I'm having. So like if you look at most of Dave Chappelle comedy, that's how his comedy is. So after he did the first special, like the pushback and the interactions that he had from people with trans community, when he makes the next special, he's going to talk about his experiences. I don't understand. Like, I don't understand why that's so like ridiculous. Like, that's just the basis. I don't think he's saying, "Well, I'm going to make these trans jokes to try to make sure that they believe that I'm included in the community, and I want to bring a trans comedian up. So then, if I bring a trans comedian up, now I can make trans jokes." I don't think he's doing that. He's a comic. He tells stories that are like long, connected jokes that detail his experiences that he's gone through. And I think that's all he's doing.
So if you were to have a conversation here on Prime and you kept having an argument with someone and they kept running down these very problematic roads that made you feel like maybe they have some issues with one particular community, would you after a while start to understand that, or would you get a feeling for like what they were going, like maybe they just have an issue with that community a little bit?
I would. Okay, if we were talking about like on debate, yes. From the way you framed it, I would say yes, but I don't think that's the same framing as what Dave Chappelle's doing. I think it would be. Well, I think it would be different if we went on the panel, and then the next panel, someone brought that issue up again, and then that person started talking about it. Well, it's like
so Dave Chappelle's making what, $100 million an episode, right? I think that's about right.
20 million for
it's 20. Sorry,
20 for 5
stand-up special.
Well, for the original stand-up specials.
Yeah, it said 20 million. We read an article about that.
So he does that, and every time out of the hour, he takes time to address this every single time. No one's telling him what he needs to do. No one's saying you have to make these particular kinds of jokes. But every time he's saying, well, let me talk about this one community who I feel are a little bit, et cetera, et cetera.
But
You don't.
is that what he's doing, or is he saying, "Hey, since the last special, hey, guess what happened to me? I was in this study and I ran into this person, and this interaction happened." Like that's what he's doing. He's not.
Can I ask you a question, Wine?
Yeah,
Maybe
sorry.
this will help cut us through, and I might kind of link it together, like how we as a society interview with comedy. Do you think that there is a societal need to introduce people that may be on the abstract or on the outside or a minority into normal actions or normal experiences?
Yeah, totally. Right. Like,
Yeah.
you could talk about the introduce it or the way gay people started being recognized in like sitcom culture, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I would agree with that. Like, it as the more people are exposed to other people that they would otherwise other, that makes them less scary. It makes them more humanized. Yeah,
Right.
that is definitely a virtue or a
Yeah.
positive thing.
And it feels like, granted, albeit we don't want people just to write a trans character in that wasn't originally meant to be a trans character that has trans experiences or gay experiences, right? I think Stan Lee talked about, well, you can't make Spider-Man gay because he's not written as a gay character, right? They make you completely different things. So what we're trying to do, and I think what Dave Chapelle does, in a sense, is that he's normalizing this action because he looks at it as a group of normal people, and again, he does it in a crass way. So this action of being a comedic joke seems to be a way that is helping society learn about trans issues, but I think we disagree on the idea of like how he's doing it, the implementation, and what the costs actually are. Because I don't feel like it's very effective. I do feel like it does get the word out there, and just the fact that you tell people like, hey, this is a real thing, doesn't excuse like the jokes that you make continuously.
Well, I guess my question would just be, do you think trans people come out looking good at the, like, if you didn't even know trans people existed and you
Right.
went to a Dave Chappelle show, would you then think trans people are cool, or maybe you should laugh at them a little? Or a lot?
I feel like that Daphne Door special ending joke. I don't know if you've seen that one. I feel like,
I've read the transcript, yeah.
okay, I feel like that is a fantastic joke because it does include her sense of what trans humor is, as far as like the interaction between her daughter, right at the end of I cannot remember how it is, so I don't want to try and butcher it.
He did specifically misgender her in that story. It was a little cringe.
Oh, wait, so you haven't watched it? You just read the transcript?
Right. That's
I
not
feel like-
comedy.
Well,
That's not
That-
how
that's
comedy
like
works.
the trans.
Yeah, no,
This is- oh
I
my- This is literally, I don't know why, but
They were
every
just being
trans
honest,
person I
let's
talked
be
to
fair.
about the special, they
Right.
said, "Oh, I read the transcript." You can't do that with comedy, by the way. All right,
Yeah.
there's like future reference. Like, if you don't watch the thing, you have no idea
Wait,
what the joke was about.
I'm sorry. Have I made any specific claims about the?
No. I'm just saying in general,
Okay,
not
good.
like you specifically. Yeah, I don't think you've been
Yeah.
like super strong against it. But.
But
Thank you.
Can I?
I feel like the way that he made that connection in between like how that personal relationship with Daphne Door and her daughter, how Dave Chappelle inserted himself into that relationship because Daphne's no longer here and he wants to interact and take care of her daughter. I thought that was amazing because it seems in line with the comedy that I watched on YouTube about her. That's what I felt though. And I
Yeah.
feel that people that did watch the special and that don't assume a malice in between it or don't think that he's necessarily punching down do get away with that impression.
Right.
I would
You know
hope.
what? I think that I hope that is the actual thing. I think a lot of
Yeah.
trans people probably either watched it or read it. Yeah, I don't want
Yeah.
to get into that really quickly. But
Sure.
I recognize the problematic stuff at the beginning, and then the story, which does seem very fucking heartfelt.
I
If
cried.
people walked away, if
was
people
good.
walked away feeling better about trans people because of that
Yeah.
story, that's actually a really good thing.
Right.
And that,
that
I'll
has
recognize
to-
good.
Yeah, and that has to feel different, right? That has to feel like, well, fuck, that's me. Like ginger jokes, fuck, that's me. As a child, like that fucking hurt, right? When you are the individual, it fucking hurts, especially when you think this person has malintent or no, not even malintent, but no fucking knowledge about like your experience. I
I mean,
think that
but
that is important to
I
validate.
should say I said earlier I don't think Dave Chappelle hates trans people.
No, I don't think.
And
he
this
did.
is no,
Yeah,
but this
you
is what
made
I'm
that clear.
saying is I don't.
Right.
I think he means to actually do good to an extent.
Right.
I just
Mhm.
think maybe maybe it doesn't seem that way all the time.
Do
Obviously,
you think it's a rational reaction for trans people to feel this attacked? Like on a whole.
well, when you say on a whole, do you mean like on a whole from Dave Chappelle, or on a whole in like today's world, right? Like
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
that's the
from
tough
the
part. I guess I mean I gave you a shit.
I think he means from
I'm
Dave
sorry.
Chappelle, but
it's okay.
Yeah, I guess like either or, because the way that I again view the introduction of trans people, I don't think was done very well, and I feel that these interactions, these heartfelt stories that he's specifically telling about Daphne and Dora, are it was incredibly done. So I wonder if on a whole, do you think trans people felt like that this was going to be an issue?
I'm
man, making you a monolith.
God knows I am not a monolith, so let's go with that.
Yeah.
To begin with, like,
this is a shit question. I'm so sorry.
yeah, it's a lot to be put on. I don't have.
Yeah, so let's go. Dolphin quickly, and then Meat has been waiting patiently.
I was gonna say it kind of brings me back to that part where I said, like, I think what happened is a lot of people. I don't think it was a bunch of like trans Dave Chappelle fans who like watched this and were like, oh my god, like Dave Chappelle's like so out of base here. But I think it was a lot of trans people who don't really watch this type of edgy comedy, who aren't really used to being made fun of in this way, who aren't like used to this type of comedy going out there, who like watched this and got offended. And it's totally a reasonable reaction. Like I don't think like anybody's invalid in being like offended in that way, right? Like the same way as like there are types of jokes that I engage with my like African Americanness and like will listen to, that like I wouldn't like think that most African Americans may or may not be okay with, and if they got offended listening to it, I'd be like, yeah, that's like a respectable thing. But like to say that like he's like uniquely being hateful towards trans people, or that he's uniquely being harmful towards trans people because all of these people came into a type of comedy that is really, really edgy, right? Like that's like one of his brands of comedy. And then we're like, oh my god, we came into this space and it's all bad because like this isn't the type of comedy we like. Is like a little bit like it just seems like a little disingenuous, or like a little bit like they're missing the point, I guess, to all the people who do listen to this type of stuff.
Let's go to Meat, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to say that it seems to me like we're seeing a microcosm. I don't even know if anyone would disagree with me. It seems like on this panel we're seeing a microcosm of what we'd probably see in the real world, where if we went around and asked the population, hey, do you think that this was offensive, or do you think this was bad, or do you think this was good, we'd probably get a really mixed result from people, generally speaking, right? We wouldn't have a clear consensus, or we wouldn't be talking about these things. And so that's for that reason, I don't know how useful it is necessarily to start looking at it in terms of whether or not it was offensive or not offensive in that way. I think generally speaking, what we do is if we're going to stop someone, especially in comedy, from talking, or say that we should, then, or say that they did something wrong that we need to stop, right? We need to have a very strong, definitive evidence of harm, in my opinion. And now that's really difficult to demonstrate, which is why we don't normally platform comedians very often, or deplatform comedians very often. We're very careful. However, there are two pretty useful categories that we generally use for language in general, and we have, as far as I can tell, been pretty consistent with as a society with comedians. Those are the two categories. One, they make a direct or like sort of evidently direct call to like action that itself would be like harmful, like actual harm, right? Or they say something that is factually wrong and present it as fact. Now, sometimes in satire, this can get a little murky. So yeah, proving that happened in comedy can sometimes be a little weird, but I think that that's a much more effective lens to look through. It will produce more effective results, and I think that those results will be results that make more sense and that we can all agree on more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that y'all are taking like a magnifying glass to something that just isn't that deep. Like, if you went to a comedy club and a comedian was making jokes about his girlfriend, and someone else is, well, when you walked away from this, did you feel that girlfriends were being discriminated against? It's like, no, it was he was just making
ridiculous.
jokes. It
That's
was
like-
just to make people laugh.
That's a
Like,
terrible
that's what
argument.
comedians do.
God.
What if
Hey,
a lot
that's
of
the
girlfriends
best
got
analogy
offended,
I've ever heard.
That's what comedians
What if a lot of girlfriends
do.
got offended?
Yeah, I mean, like, but that's not.
You get
that's
the
not the
difference between a
comedians.
title and identity, right? Do you understand that? That might be a different thing, a title and an identity.
You can put anything in the place of girlfriend. That's what I'm saying.
No,
Like,
no,
it's
no,
not-
no, no,
it's
you
not
can't.
offensive.
No, you
because
can't.
You're trying to analogize this with being trans, right? You cannot actually. So when you're making the other part of that analogy, right? The comparison, you have to actually put something comparable in there. You can't put anything in there, right? So no, you can't put a title in there and say all these two things are the same, right? We should treat them the same when
Hair
they're
color?
not the same.
Hair color?
It's you
We
can
could maybe
okay.
use
Black
that.
No,
people.
that's a
you can-
choice too. That's a choice.
I'm
That's
saying
a
you
choice.
can
Hair color.
put black people or women or whatever the case. Like the comedians are making jokes to be funny. They're pointing out things in society that they want to make fun of. Like that's what they do. It's not this. Oh, they're trying to change social society and they're trying to change politics and maybe it's like a convoluted.
Wait, but
like they're
No,
there
but
to make jokes. They find
Wait,
things
but
in that
that's-
are funny and they make jokes about them.
a huge driving force behind comedy is to push limits and to push society forward, to fuck with taboos and all of that, right? Like you can't say like comedy isn't political. It's like saying art isn't political or music isn't political. They're all inherently political.
It's not
Uh,
necessarily.
Only as much as
taboo.
you want to say anything and everything is. Like,
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like when I'm saying, I
I
haven't
think
heard.
maybe more like the relevance of trans rights being kind of like really fucking somehow questionable as of right now. I think that becomes that, and then that becomes an issue because like these are topics. If it's something that's being talked about in society, it's something that comedians hit. But the problem is, it's not like, oh, haha, redheads are running out of like suntan lotion. It's, oh, haha, trans people are second-class citizens, if fucking people at all.
So
At that time,
But I really take issue with that because I think like one of the messages in his special was like completely against that, right?
yeah,
Like
I agree.
often through the special, he was like, hey, like when he told the story about Daphne, he was like, hey, like they're having human experiences. Hey, like
Yes,
treat these
that
people like
was
humans.
amazing.
Like he was often telling like, hey, I think trans women are women. He was often like, hey, like there are going to be trans people in your life, and like you
Wait,
should treat
no.
these people like humans, just like
Did
everybody
he say
else.
trans? I mean, I mean, the joke about Beyond Pussy was both funny and like a little questionable, right?
I know the point.
Yeah,
it's weird
Dustin
when he
knows.
says
Dustin
contradictory
knows.
things,
You're damn
right?
right.
That's
dude.
Right.
It reminded me of a George Carlin bit about like mailing a mountain man like a model's young pussy, and like he just sniffs it. I don't. Hopefully, somebody's actually seen that one. That's a pretty bad.
I'm old.
Sounds like George Carlin.
I've heard jokes about like, oh, when that Beyond pussy gets better than the real pussy, you know, like that's where a lot of comedians go with it. It's like
I can't believe it's not pussy.
So now,
For what it's worth, like that. Yeah, that doesn't seem like dehumanizing in that joke to an extent.
Well,
So
that's the question. Of, like,
okay.
Yeah.
But someone could feel that way.
So
You see how someone.
I want to hear from Naz. Before then, I want to say something real quick. In case you don't know, I found all the specials, all three of them, funny. I thought they were hilarious. Thought they were really great, really well done. Would I have enjoyed them better without the focus on trans individuals? Not that trans people can't be touched. I think, yeah, absolutely, I would have. My problem with it was his like clear obsession with this topic, right? Like, and my problem with the greater narrative is that like, what are trans people complaining about, right? Like they have no leg to stand on here. That's my issue. But whether it's funny, I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was Dave Chapelle, right? It was like he's so amazing at what he does, right? I think he's a bit of
Maybe
an
the
asshole
best of all
of a human
time.
being, but it's not, and it's not like he's the first comedian to make trans jokes. I think you can. I think it's something that could be a subject. I think though his focus on it, like I don't think it's ridiculous to think that his focus on this can be mean spirited at times. So yeah, that's where my stance is on that. I mean, it might not have been clear before. Naz, I think you wanted to say something.
I mean, I was just gonna respond to the whole Dave Chappelle making jokes about a certain minority in a community or taboo. I think someone said. So like, does that then mean that like being trans is like a taboo in our society? Is that the category we're putting it in now, or no? I'm trying to understand like where we
Dude,
stand.
for what it's worth, every time someone makes an argument, you're trying to rephrase that person's argument as like some way for them to be like attacking their own identity. It's a little cringe.
Trying to clear up on what we're talking about.
Yeah, no, like because I was talking about the bathroom thing earlier, and you're like, oh, do you mean people aren't valid? Like, if you want to make that comment.
Well, no, I brought up the prisons because that's also an issue when it comes to policy and government enforcement. When it comes to what's on your driver's license, that's what I refer to with your. I'm not trying to go back to that, but that's what I was referring to when it comes to that.
What was the question that you asked? I'm sorry. The question that you had asked.
Are trans people a taboo in society?
It seems...
Is the percentage small enough to where it's a taboo?
Oh, well, I mean...
Is that percentage too big?
I don't think being trans
what do you
is
mean
a
by
taboo,
like...
but or maybe some people might see it that way. But
what do you mean by like taboo? I guess is like you cannot be talked about, like the literal definition of like taboo, or like looked down upon taboo.
You're saying it's not good to be making fun of a taboo groups such as
off limits,
trans people
essentially,
or handicapped people or something. I'm not saying they're in the same category. I'm just saying
you're
saying they're like untouchable.
I don't feel that way. I
don't either, for what it's worth.
Right. I definitely don't feel that way. I wouldn't know a certain amount of people that would feel that way. I imagine somebody does, but my problem and my issue is like there doesn't seem to be, and this sounds really corny, enough proper introduction trans representation that actually is relatable to people that have that issue, to the point where you have like people to look up to of merit that actually are worthy to look up to.
Meaning trans people of merit. Is a trans person of merit like ContraPoints?
Yeah, like ContraPoints would be.
Personally, I would say Laura Jane Grace was amazing in that regard.
How do you that realm? How do you ascend to that realm of like?
It kind of depends. That's a pretty personal question. Like, how do you define like who your heroes are? Right? Like, could you give me one of your heroes?
My heroes?
Yeah, like who's somebody that you look up to? Yeah,
I can't. There's nothing. No one comes to my head immediately because I don't idolize.
There's no one like with your experience personally. No one.
Yeah. There's no bald person that you like. Hey, I think this guy has some good. Yeah. Well, it's not necessarily an issue of respect, right? It's more like a.
Someone I adopt ideologies from. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, and it could be
like very.
I would say. Has there ever been somebody that you've listened to or watched that you've said, "Oh, hey, I see a lot of myself in what they're saying"?
Be honest,
like that's my experience.
I'm pretty weird guy, so I don't think so.
I'm
definitely
you don't
not.
Read a lot, or like, there's never been somebody that said something like, "Oh yeah, I could pick that up and put that in my toolkit for life."
I mean, about like, I think better than that. Are there any like characters who you would like describe as like relatable?
I don't.
That's like a relatable character, right?
Okay, fine.
I don't need you to idolize somebody.
I love Jordan Peterson.
Okay.
Yeah, so do you think like Jordan Peterson would be like relatable, maybe, right?
To your experience. To your experience.
Like in general, like you like can relate to him in some way. I don't know.
I mean, no, I don't. I'm not a clinical psychologist, so I can't relate to him as like a person, but he's someone I might.
He's not going to answer this question.
Of
he's answering right now.
He has someone, but he's not going to actually answer it.
He's good.
He said Jordan Peterson.
He just answered.
No,
it.
I'm just saying.
I mean,
there's different people that have content on the internet that I consume.
Sure.
But,
Well,
like,
it doesn't. My
like,
point
only
is,
person-
it doesn't just
people I
have to
idolize.
be on the internet or whatever. Like my point that I was making, it doesn't seem like trans people have at least a plethora of, and it's difficult because they're a minority, a plethora of people to choose from to take this life experience and apply it to theirs to help better themselves, right? It seems like that's something that we need more of, and it helps introduce them into society more because these are people that should have that avenue because they're, they exist in our society.
They should be legitimized, right?
Yeah, I think
Not
another
necessarily
thing
to be
is
legitimized, but
so something very similar, and I think it kind of like points to what Nasty was talking about. Is that or Nas? I don't know what you go by, but I
Nas,
think
you
a
can
lot of times when you have marginalized groups, there's this like want to like show them in like the like super clean best light in all of media. So like with black people, it's like, oh my gosh, like these or black people, women, like trans people probably is like, oh, you can't show these people struggle in media. You can't show these people like they can't do anything except overcome the thing that is the adversity that their identity causes, and they can only be like the most perfect characters and never make any mistakes and never have any flaws. And I think that like this sort of talking about the issue creates like a distance between like not only that community and the content about them, but also from people who don't understand them and the content about it. So like in the case with Dave Chapelle and trans people, I think that a lot of, not all, like if you meet a trans person in real life, like all the trans people I've met have been super cool and like super awesome for the most part. And
We're totally scary.
and are very like informative and explain things very well about like their experience and how you want them to treat
as long as they have a pickle in their hand.
True.
Hey,
But,
you're gonna make fun of me, but then you're gonna ask a trans femme friend of yours, and you're gonna be like, "Oh, pickles are a thing."
I already knew that. I just
What
thought
if
it
they?
was like
What
a
if they've
girl
never heard of
thing,
that?
Not necessarily a trans thing.
What if?
Then they would still be valid.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you?
But
would you,
But maybe
would you
they should
retract
talk
your
to their
statement? No, I'm
doctor
kidding.
about how I don't know.
so where I was going with that is that I think that like one of the big problems that we have is a lot of times when people want to like understand trans people, right? And maybe they do read a trans person in real life, or they see trans people around or something like that. And then you have this media representation of them that's so sanitized and clean, and like it's either the completely like bastardized version of trans people, or where they're like crazy monster murderer people, or it's the completely other end of the spectrum where they're like perfect, can do no wrong, overcoming trans adversity is base. You lose a lot of people who are like, I don't understand what trans people are like, look to the idealized version of it and are like, that doesn't really match my experience. And then they turn back and they look at the like bastardized version of that and they're like, hey, that's a little bit more relatable to like what have I experienced, right? And
Could you tell me
I think we lose a lot of people from stuff like that, right? And we lose a lot of people from stuff like that. And I think a figure like Dave Chapelle, who comes out and is a little edgier and like, sure, I don't think everything he said was like perfect, but I think his like assessment was like, hey, like there's all these cool trans people and stuff, but here's some funny things about them. Gives people like a more closely related media representation of trans people that they can jump to, that isn't the like crazy far like perfect trans person who doesn't struggle through anything, but they're also not the like, hey, trans people are evil monsters, that people can like use to like learn about and like represent the trans community. I think that's kind of like a space that he's occupying that doesn't really exist.
I want to be super generous to the story that Dave Chapelle shared. But at the same time, I would like to sort of, you're talking about these things that make it sound like trans people don't have any challenges, and I would just love to know what those are. I don't think that is the media presentation of trans existence at all.
So not that they don't have any challenges, but so one thing with So I'll use an analogy. One thing that happens with black people a lot in media, not as much anymore, but for there's an era it was really, really bad, was that like the only struggle that any black person had was being black and racism, right? Like a black person couldn't like be short or like feel bad about like being bad at something else. It was always everybody was racist and they couldn't struggle with anything but it. And these characters like weren't really. So for like trans people, like I think for a lot of people, and like I'm trying to be careful with my wording, so forgive me if I'm wrong if I say something like a little bad. But like for a lot of people, I think that like the perception of trans people that they get is that all trans people either are these extremely beautiful actors you see on TV, or like a dude like puts on a dress and a skirt and like all of a sudden they're a woman, and like there's no difference between like a trans woman and a real woman, right? Because like trans women are women is the only thing you ever hear. And they're like, well, wait, there's like gotta be some differences here.
I agree with you. Representation is pretty shit, right? Like it's media's gonna go to one or the other. They're either gonna go look at this gorgeous trans woman, or on the other side, they're going to show the it's that middle ground. In much as like the boring news stories don't make it to local news.
I disagree, but I think it's because when you have marginalized groups, a lot of times that's where the media starts out. But like in so let's talk about someone who's like a cis white male. One of the most relatable like superheroes out there that everyone cites as being relatable is Spider-Man. He's like, obviously he's like superhuman and stuff, but he's known for being, hey, like he's a little bit more down to earth. He's funny. Like everybody really, really likes this character. Opposed to like some other characters who might be like Superman, like Superman's big, but he's not as popular, even though he's like super perfect superhero guy. So like a lot of people, a lot of times people do relate with characters like this, who they like characters in media who they find relatable, who they can connect with. Childish Gambino is like a rapper who like a lot of like nerdy black people like kind of connect with a little bit, even though like they shouldn't, but like they kind of do. And I think in the long run, a lot of these figures get really, really big and really, really popular. But when you're talking about marginalized groups, it always starts out as like, hey, everything you see of them is like this bastardized, awful version of them, like racist, transphobic, like bigoted version of representation in media. And then we swing the other way to go the complete opposite because we haven't yet settled to like, quote unquote, like kind of normalize them almost, I would say.
That they're having a human experience.
Exactly.
Like,
kind of.
Yeah, I mean, but to me at least, you're talking about your own personal experience when it comes to those things. And what I would say is my experience similarly is with like Laura Jane Grace or Lana Wachowski, right? And I wouldn't say that either of those people go onto the supermodel side of things, and I certainly wouldn't put them on the, I guess, what I grew up with seeing on fucking Jerry Springer. These two were extremely important to me. But to me, they were just very normal people in a lot of ways. I could personally identify with them, which is why I was actually really curious about what Naz was going to say about like who he could identify with, because it meant so much to me personally to see the experiences of those two women specifically, especially being a goth punk person of their same age bracket.
Oh.
I have no idea who either of those people are. I'm sorry.
I don't either. If you could post them in the chat.
Sorry. Lana Wachowski is one of the directors, writers of The Matrix.
Oh, yeah.
She's the one that did the most recent Matrix. Her sister was not a part of it.
4?
But both, yeah. But her and her sister both transitioned after the original trilogy.
That's
both
why,
of them.
Yeah, they were called the Wachowski brothers.
Brother, they were, yeah.
Oh. Ask a question.
So
go ahead. Sorry, the other person.
Yeah. You can go ahead if you want something to say.
Okay.
We still on this topic?
Yeah. So I mean, I just think that if I'm looking at like Dave Chapelle, I think if Dave Chapelle did a comedy skit and made fun of like some women's issues like pay gap or gender or whatever, something like that, and the whole entire year after that skit, those people were giving pushback on him and Twitter and attacking him. When he did his next special, he would bring that up and talk about it more. Like that's the type of person he was. That's the type of person he is. He would do that. So yes, in this case, just trans issues but I don't think he's going anywhere outside of his character or making any extra effort to bring up these issues. He's just saying, hey, since my last special, guess what happened? This happened, and this happened, and this happened. And people are like, oh, why are you focusing on it so much? He's like, because this is what I've been dealing with for my last year, and I'm a comedian. I'm telling you about what I've been through.
Yeah. I don't think you're wrong on that.
I see that.
I think it becomes like the level of consistency that some people see and then like attribute to, right?
Like, could he have walked away from it and let it just like stop? You know,
maybe.
But he's a comedian. Like,
we get it, man. Like we both agree. Like we agree.
No, but I mean, she asked the question. Like, why would he just walk away and let it stop? That's content. Like that's
fair. That's fair. Yeah, it's content. I for what it's worth, I just want to make it like a little clearer because I'm totally new to all of this. I do not believe in like deplatforming him. Or for what it's worth, Joe Rogan, the same sort of ideas. I just don't want, when I subscribe to these things, I don't want to, if my specific money didn't go to them, that would be rad. That's about it.
Nice.
So I don't know if this is bringing back something we discussed, but I just want to just one more time finalize it because it's definitely something that I've gone into this talk thinking was a thing on the side of like very pro-trans communities, right? You're saying that a biological man that transitions into a woman is not then classified as a real woman, or is not then expected to be classified as a real woman.
No, because all right. See,
if by real woman,
here's the thing with this real thing, right? Because this real thing, you use the term "real" as if these things are interchangeable with biological. You mean to say biological, or at least, well, maybe I shouldn't say what you mean to say, but like biological, yes, people don't consider them biological women. Real is different. You associate real with biological, not everyone else does. So the people on the pro-trans side will push back when you say, oh, this person either is not real, or when you say that this person is not a real woman, right? That's the issue there. Like, if you want to say biological, yeah, no one considers them to be biological women, right? Or cis women, we have a term for that. Cis women, they don't consider that to be the same. But when you say not real, then you're effectively saying, well, they're not actually trans individuals. Go ahead.
Subjective. Okay, so let me ask you another, like, part 2 of that question. So then where does sexual orientation come in, if it comes in at all? So can you be like a gay trans woman, or can you be like a gay trans?
No, they're completely separate.
Yeah, you can be any of those combinations.
You're attracted to men.
Yeah. No, it does.
No, you can be any of those
combinations. No, it doesn't. No, it does not.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
Yes,
if you were born a
right,
biological man,
I'll bite. So what? How does it? I'll bite.
So
yes, I want to know too.
And
okay, so
no. Naz is still talking. Naz is waiting patiently. Naz, please.
Okay, last statement. You're a biological man, right?
Mm-hmm.
Born. You tend to have a sexual desire towards men. You then transition into a woman to then attract men, or in hopes of attracting cis male men.
Could you build this any like more ridiculously?
So I think you're missing the goal of transitioning.
Right, but the thing is that could also not happen.
Somebody, right?
I think
that could also not happen, right?
Like
who you have a desire to spend the rest of your life with matters. I think that really does matter.
It could, but that's not
that's not why people transition.
Right.
I think that whether or not you adopt your dog or get it from a shelter is relevant, or is important, but it's not relevant to this conversation. Like that's.
That's why it was an unrelated question.
I think the hair that I have growing out of this big ass mole on my chest is important. I should probably go to the doctor about it. It's not relevant to what we're talking about.
So
just like sex is important. Who you spend the rest of your life with is important. It has nothing to do with transgender.
Like,
yeah.
So like these things. So obviously there are some intersections of these things in the lives of trans people when they're choosing identities and stuff like that, sexual identities, right? However,
not necessarily.
Them? Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Like this is just fact. All right. Like being trans and does kind of affect, right, your dating life. Like that's all I'm basically saying, right? However,
okay, sure.
Well, honey,
yes. It's not the other way. It's generally not the other way around. Trans people don't transition because they're trying to like attract a different gender than the one that they are currently attracting.
But
It's
that
not
might,
like it's a separate issue that just happens to intersect. Like
Yeah.
being black and being poor, like these are two completely separate things, right? Race and socioeconomic status. Now sometimes they intersect with each other. Being black can make you more likely to be poor, or can make being poor worse. However, they don't. One does not make the other, and one doesn't necessarily and one doesn't necessarily have like a severe impact on the other. They do exist like independently as well.
Well,
Yeah.
from what I took,
Yeah, they just don't have anything to do with the question
Yeah,
in play, because I don't think that was his argument.
I would say to Naz, and then I do want to hear what Mint has to say. What I would say to Naz is that similar to what Top Dolphin did, I think he ended up doing a good job. I thought at the beginning you were going to say something terrible, but no, you actually pulled it out. So shout out to you, Adam.
Actually, no.
But no, yeah, that these things intersect. I think it would be. I think the core of the reason why a lot of people transition, right, like is for many different reasons, but like it's less to attract someone. But however, that plays a part, right? Your outward appearance plays a part in getting someone, right? Like so, like the need not all people, again, not all trans people actually want to transition or want to fully quote unquote transition or anything like that, but the need to pass, right? Well, yeah, if you want to get a sexual partner, it's easier if you pass than when you don't, right? So like that's, I mean, those things are
Just
related,
real quick.
but
You said some
That
trans people
depends
don't
where you
fully-
are on Grinder. Let's be fair.
Yeah, there you go.
fair enough.
Or what you're specifically looking for.
Go ahead.
What I do
Naz.
worry about, though.
Hold on,
no.
Naz, and then Mint.
I was just saying, you said that like some people don't want to fully transition. Does that still then make them trans?
Yeah, the big.
Let's,
Or
wait,
like-
but let's
or-
not
or-
use
or
the
the
fully
thought-
transition. That's
Okay, fine. The desire to want to eventually have the ability and resources and opportunity to then fully transition. Does that then make a difference?
What do you mean
Yeah,
by
like-
fully
in
transition?
if they're
Yeah,
trans?
Well,
Some people
I'm
can't
the one who
afford it.
used
Some
that.
people
I
don't
use
have
that
access
term.
to it,
So
right?
like I
Some
meant like
people-
like
their parents
bottom
aren't letting
surgery and
them.
all that. Yeah,
Mhm.
like
Like-
and like
we can't get into that.
Well,
It's
it's
pretty
like a
important.
level of treatment, right? Like some people will require, with like severe gender dysphoria, some people might require, I want to be more specific or more broad. Some people might require a bottom surgery to help them medically and alleviate some pain. Some people may not require that. Like it seems like there can be a level to where, oh my God, I finally feel like a person.
Let me ask this. With that being said, let me ask this then. And I'm just really trying to break
fine.
this down. So
Yeah.
then if you're a gay man who's very feminine, very flamboyant,
Mm-hmm.
right, and you decide to wear some drag, right?
Yeah, sure.
Or like put on a wig, does that
Right.
then make you trans? Or is it the
Hey,
thought
he's-
of wanting to
he-
be a full woman?
No,
I'm sorry.
like
No,
I
Hey,
would,
he's just
not-
trying to break this down through a completely
Yeah.
disingenuous argument.
Right.
He's
Explain
asking
it.
real
No.
questions. He's not
Yeah,
Rey
being
so
Mysterio.
disingenuous.
so
Rey
as a
Mysterio, I need you to explain.
so as a whole, probably not. It more depends, like if that person enjoys that sexual interaction of feeling like the softness of the panties on their skin or whatever it may be and the femininity of the long hair, that may be a part of like what their sexual identity requires, what they require for the sexual act, not how they would function in society or what they need to feel like a basic person. Does that make sense?
So feeling like a basic person would be subjective then.
Well, it's relative.
Mm-hmm.
It would be relative.
I would say like
So,
not basic, but feeling like a valid person maybe might be
Right.
better.
Maybe
Like
valid.
different people
Relative to who's around you and
different
showing
people
you
will
support, like we
take
brought up
different
before.
steps.
Family,
So
right?
some
Right.
people
So, like-
some people feel more compelled to biologically transition. Some people socially might be enough. For a lot of people, biologically transitioning really helps the social transition. So like that's what matters. And there's a lot of different things at play here into like how much action or what steps a transition person takes, a trans person takes when they transition. And these are the types of steps that they would work out with their doctor.
being like
Mint.
Oh, go ahead.
I want to move this along. Mint.
Yeah, I guess the conversation went like a different route. I thought that the question he was asking was like if you were a cis man and you were attracted to another man, then you would be homosexual. But then if you transitioned and you were attracted to a man, then you would be considered heterosexual. At least that's what I thought that's where it was going, but I guess it wasn't.
Yeah, maybe from like a societal level. Like I guess if you mean from like a biological function
Like a
level,
definition of straight level.
right? Well, the definition of straight would then just kind of lap onto gender, right?
Like if you're a trans woman that likes women, still,
Right.
because
You
from
would
the
be a
being
lesbian.
man, you still have that
Lesbian.
in your mind. You're a
You would
lesbian
be,
now.
yeah, you would be a lesbian
Full-on
because
lesbian.
yeah. Well,
There's no
that's
Not a
subcategory.
halfway lesbian, I guess.
I mean, I
What
don't,
if you still had
I
a
don't know
penis?
if,
What if you still
I
had
mean,
a
I don't
dick?
know if there's a distinction,
Well,
but
what difference does
I
that
guess
make?
I'm more
Is
okay
it
with.
relevant?
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
I'm
well,
more okay with.
it
I
might be
mean,
relevant to your partner if your partner
oh yeah,
that
it'll
matters to your
definitely
partner,
be
right?
relevant. Right, for sure. Will.
But that's another that's another huge fucking topic. That's we don't have to get into. But finish up your point, Mint, please.
yeah. So, you brought up lesbians, so now I kind of have to think about that. But I
good
wouldn't.
category for porn.
I think just like we've updated all our other definitions, I think we haven't updated homosexual and heterosexual as to those words refer to sex and not gender. So I think trying to map those terms onto transgender and how that interacts, I don't think it works
We had
unless we like rewrite.
we had a previous conversation about this because you've been involved in all the conversations about trans people. But remember we had when we ran into this exact same topic, right? And just like how we haven't necessarily updated our driver's licenses, right? We also haven't updated our language, like you just mentioned, right? So I put forward, hey, why don't we call it like homogendered, right? Instead, if that's what we're actually meaning, right? If as a society we've changed our understanding of these things, right? If the term homosexual came before our newfound understanding of the trans experience and including that, then why not homogendered or hetero gendered, or yeah, something like that, or maybe something else that might be better. Maybe what I say just was a bit too confusing, but you know, right?
I mean, I understand that. I just don't I don't understand why you would be for making that change, but you weren't for but you thought making the driver license change was ridiculous. Like to me, they seem like
I didn't
you're
say
making the
oh my
same.
god, it's like I didn't say it was ridiculous. I'm saying that your focus on it was like was a distraction, right? Like as we said before, if you want to change it, good, then change it. That's fine, right? But it's the reason why people aren't fighting for that is because it's like not that big of a deal. This is extremely low on the totem pole. I'm sure if you looked online or on Twitter, right, and you pose this question, you'd find a certain level of trans people like, yeah, that would actually be pretty cool if it didn't say sex, but gender. If that's what we're referring to now, then yeah, change the name of the category, right, and change the the F to a W. Sure, that's fine, but that's not their focus in terms of being validated. The point is, like, put the W, if they're a trans woman, put the W next to my name, right? So that when I'm going through security, right? This is for like a passport, I guess, right? Like airport security.
Oh God,
then
yeah.
I don't get fucking hassled. That I feel safe. That the authorities won't, cause me an issue. They'll just let me through. Okay, it's a W there. Then that's the issue. Not that next to the W it says sex rather than gender. That part is less important. It'd be nice if you change it, but it's like not a big deal.
Also, doesn't the homosexual, heterosexual, that's like sexuality is who you want to have sex with, not necessarily like what sex you prefer, right?
It's completely different.
Right, this is the
it's
English language
conflating
being
of
stupid,
issues,
right?
No, but it depends. It depends on what your sex is. It's not just the other person.
Maybe, but your issue isn't with the terminology; it's with your definition of the terminology. right?
Okay.
And then like that shit can be changed. It probably has
If
been
a-
like if you look up at the Webster dictionary already. I
Hey,
guess.
hey Mint.
What you're
Mint-
really attracted to, you're attracted to people of a certain gender, not people of a certain sex. And if you disagree with that, I can disprove that.
I don't think you
Hey,
can.
Oh,
Can I be
boy.
really quick about this?
You don't think I can disprove that? You don't think I could find
hold
someone that's biologically
Let's
male that
do
you
it
would find
later.
attractive if you were walking down the street?
Let's do it later.
I
Wine
mean,
mom.
no,
Okay,
I don't
sorry.
think. I don't think so. I think like screwed.
Wine mom. What were you last thing?
Sure. Mint, we have what is it, Elliot Page? Is that right?
Elliot Page. Yeah, that's the new name.
Right. So we have Elliot Page. Elliot Page is dating a cis man. What is the sexuality of that cis man in your mind, Mint?
Who was? I don't know who Elliot Page is.
Elliot Page is a
You know.
trans man.
It used to be Ellen Page.
Trans man.
From
Naz.
yeah.
Trans man. Trans man.
You know, right?
You can be trans
But,
man.
they don't know,
Juno.
but you keep saying trans man. If doesn't know the person, then it's not gonna help.
Yeah.
They were part on that movie Juno. Like that was their big moment on that movie Juno. Do you remember?
The person from
Inception. Yes,
Okay, yeah. So Ellen Page became Elliot
Knew
Page.
who it was.
Okay, and so you say what would be the sexuality of her husband or his? Wait,
his now.
wait. So okay, his
Of a guy,
husband.
guy who is totally in a relationship with Elliot Page. Yes.
That's why I would ask the question because I don't know. I would say it would be heterosexual, but then people say no because that's not a woman anymore. But I would say it's heterosexual because it's based on sex or heterosexual.
Well, at least identifies where the issue is then.
All right, so thanks all for that. You know, about to start a whole different topic. Oh yeah, like who are you attracted to? It's completely another can of worms. Anyway, thanks all for being here. If you've been enjoying this topic, hit or anything that we've been doing here, hit that follow button right now. Make sure notifications are on, so you know I'm going live videos 6 nights a week. Don't want you to miss out on any of that. ! Social and chat. If I can actually type it out. ! Social and chat for social media. Follow us on Facebook. For Facebook, why do I keep fucking saying Facebook? No, not on Facebook, right? On Twitter, Discord, YouTube. Check out the VODs, right? Like, comment, subscribe for all that good shit. I am going to send you all.